Jenny's in the background now. This is amazing.
Yeah, she's part of the podcast.
She's
episode
part
2.
of it now.
Welcome back, us. This is episode 2 of the Team All Boys Top 50 Goats cast. I am your host, me. That's all I'm giving you. The first episode we left off with everybody going through their lists, but this time Dino has joined us, so we can get him in there. Say hi, Dino.
Oh, I just did.
Oh, good. Nice and low. But yeah, so last time we left off, we were talking about all of our lists, what our mentalities were going into putting in our list, things that sucked to remove, and things that we are little hidden gems that we wanted to just kind of point out. Maybe something you don't think good in there, but regardless, a couple of things that make you happy about making your list. So yeah, Dino, tell us what went into making your list.
Sure. So I will admit I'm a little bit of a sellout, and perhaps I played it a little safe, but at the same time, everything on my list I do love and enjoy. I think the problem with creating a list like this is there's so many good franchises that I would want to put like 8 to 10 games from each franchise on there. So like for example, Final Fantasy VII's number 2, right? I wish I could put 10 or 10, 6,
Yeah.
and so
I put Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 on there, and I got yelled at, so I had to separate them.
Put Mass Effect like what is it called?
No, that's what he did.
Yeah.
He put the Legacy Collection on there. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Boom. No, that's
it's
a
like
game.
I put Super Mario All Stars on there.
That counts as one game. It's one title. But yeah, no. So that's kind of like the theme through the whole thing, right? Like, I wish I could put more Resident Evil. What?
It sounds like you're really big on having a good variety, a good slice of different franchises, not wanting to focus on the one game.
Yeah, I wanted to have a lot of representation there. So
also, you're a damn liar. There it is. Right
well, okay, but like I still wanted more. Like I wish I could put like 7 Resident Evil games on there, but it's going to take like almost a fifth of the list up. And so I went for variety, right? Like I wanted to have a lot of different consoles, a lot of different types of games. Like I even have like a rail shooter on there, like House of the Dead 2, which is like my most favorite rail shooter of all time. I absolutely love that game. I love that game to the point where I have a Dreamcast in my basement. I have 2 of the guns. The US version doesn't let you play with the light guns because unfortunately the release was very close to when Columbine happened, and Sega was really concerned about it. So the US version of the game is not compatible with the official Dreamcast light gun. So you actually have to play the import version to play with the official Dreamcast light gun.
Yeah, because the only one that would work in America was the third-party Mad Catz,
and those suck.
Exactly, and it's fucking trash. Whereas the Japanese gun is really cool and accurate.
So what I have is I have like a legit English copy, but to play House of the Dead 2 with the official light guns, I actually used like the disc loader or whatever it's called, where you load off the SD card, and that gets past that. But
wait, was that thing that like you open the tray of the PS1 and you put that thing to like?
You basically you take apart the Dreamcast, you take out the optical drive. And then where the optical drive hooks into the motherboard, you hook in the new device, and then you pop in the SD
external
card.
thing you'd order off the internet, right? Yeah. I had one like that for PlayStation 1. That it was like this box thing that you plug in. Yeah.
Well, it's a little different, but like they're doing this like optical drive replacement with a lot of like disc-based consoles now. Like you can do it for Saturn, PlayStation, etc. It's good for playing your backups, but anyway, yeah, it's extremely useful.
Dope. Was there anything that you wanted on your list that didn't make it, that was like you're really pissed off that you couldn't add it because there just wasn't enough?
I think just more titles of franchises, right? Like maybe more Pokemon games, or I don't know, some other rhythm games that I like Beatmania and stuff like that.
Poppin' music.
Yeah, exactly. And there just wasn't enough room for everything. Like I only put Metal Slug, but I wish I could put like Metal Slug, Metal Slug 3, Metal Slug X, like, and so that's like was my biggest problem. But I left out titles like that for the sake of variety, so I could put a lot more interesting things on there to make a more interesting list, because otherwise, having like 5 Metal Slug games and then like the 7 Resident Evil games doesn't make an interesting list.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I kind of picture it too. Like, say, if we each have like a top 50 list, right? And like we're trapped, or like, we're in our house, we have 50 games that we're gonna have forever. You would probably do something similar, right? Like maybe you wouldn't want every single Final Fantasy. Maybe you just want one Final Fantasy so you can have another of this genre too, right?
Yeah, I kind of actually was thinking along those lines myself.
Awesome.
Yeah,
what about some of like the more hidden gem kind of games that you have on your list? Maybe like you don't see other people have that you kind of want to gush on a little bit.
Things that I think I wish more people had on their list, I would say probably stuff like Undertale.
Yeah.
I think Undertale in every sense of the word is like instant classic. Amazing storyline, interesting gameplay. Like no other RPG has ever had like a similar battle system to Undertale. And uh yeah, no, that guy Toby Fox is like
I never
literally,
played it.
he's a genius. Yeah, like
Yeah,
so
he's a
so
fucking genius.
based on who you're fighting, like what characters you're fighting, that their attacks take place in this little box, and you're like this little heart, and you have to like move the heart around to like dodge the attacks. But like if you're fighting like a dog character, like it will start like bones will start like going at you, or like if you're fighting like, whatever, like you're fighting a character with a spear, like spears will start coming in, you're like dodging them. And there's a lot of fights that expand on that little square or rectangle, and uh, it makes like really unique like interactions, and so that alone makes it like an incredible game. But there's more than that. That, like I said, the story is like awesome.
Sundara.
What is that?
It's like the name of the airplane is called the Sundara plane.
Oh
It was
geez.
like what is that for? Like Japanese for like it's
Tsundere
like
is basically like the girl that likes you,
a
but
bratty one or
she's like
something.
mean to you. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love the shit out of this game. Like, it starts off slow because it's like, this is an Atari ass looking game, but the further you get into it, the more unique shit you see they do, and then
It
just like,
reminds me of Earthbound.
yeah,
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 I'm sure there was a lot of inspiration there. One thing I like about it, it really proves time and time again that like story and gameplay like definitely trump like graphics, right? And I truly believe in that. I
yeah,
play like old shit all the time. Like I literally
yep.
am almost done with a playthrough of Pokemon Red that I've been playing this week. Like if it's a good game, it's a good game.
yeah, and I think it's a testament too that like, your story doesn't have to be The Last of Us. Your story can be like, I am a girl or boy, I forget what it is, like falling down a well and meeting a fucking hot dog monster and a skeleton with a jacket on, and like the story is still legitimately good because of the writing and like how it understands the tone it needs to take and stuff like that.
I think the strength of the story is the characters. You
Yeah.
find yourself like really like falling in love with the characters like Papyrus or like Undyne or Sans, and you just get hooked.
Yeah. I will say, yeah, there's that certain point where you get through the middle of the story, or you get to this certain part of the game and all of a sudden you realize you're like, I'm so immersed in all of this fucking universe.
Which is
But
pretty crazy because there's no voice acting. It's all, old
It's all
school
text
like
based.
text. Yeah, but still the characters have so much personality that it like transcends that.
yeah. I definitely think this will be something we talk about though when we go into like top 50. Yeah, cool. What about any other games on your list?
I think there was maybe not enough representation of Contra, you know.
Yeah. You know what? I remember when we met and we started becoming friends, like you were huge on hardcore, right?
Yeah, so that's definitely on my list. That's my favorite Contra game. Uh, in my opinion, the best Contra game because it takes Contra to the next level.
Which one?
This is a
It's Contra
Sega Genesis.
Hardcore on Sega Genesis, my number 22.
I just wish that they would have had like Ronald Reagan as a playable character, you know?
Yeah, if only.
Oliver North, maybe.
I mean,
the robot.
It has everything going for it though, like multiple characters, branching paths.
I'll say
Very
I
good
played this game a
graphics.
lot as a kid, and one of the things I liked about it was that, I mean, the game is still hard, right? It's a Contra game, but it's not NES Contra hard. You know what I mean? It's doable, it's playable.
I think it's harder than NES Contra.
Yeah, hardcore's fucked up. Great game though.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, like the non-hardcore is more accessible, right?
Well, I think the most important thing is it has representation because it normalized furries before furries were a thing. So
yeah, you could be a fucking wolf with sunglasses.
You can be a what do you call it?
Anthropomorphic.
Yeah, wolf. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when me and you would play, and I'd be like, "I'm gonna be the wolf. That's dope." And you're like, "The wolf's the worst."
Worst character though.
Yeah, you could be a little robot, dude.
He would always be the robot. But yeah, you know, it's funny. You know, you talk about stuff like Mario the Lost Levels and Mario 2 and stuff, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, they put the Lost Levels in. They put the Lost Levels. They didn't release that in America because it's too fucking hard. And I feel like hardcore.
Stars though.
Yeah, but like hardcore, I feel like wasn't it the opposite? Wasn't like the Japanese one the one where you get the health instead of just
yes, actually, I've never played that one, but I've seen screenshots, and you get like 4 or 5 health per live in that version. So it's like the training wheels version.
So there were actually a good amount of American games that were made harder than the Japanese games due to the rental market because they. Rentals weren't as big in Japan as they were in America, so they didn't want people to beat a game like in 2 or 3 days, like renting it. So there's actually a good amount of Japanese games that came to America that were made harder because of rentals, essentially.
That's interesting. Actually, I didn't know that.
Is Ninja Gaiden for Xbox one of those games? Because I feel like it would have been. That game on the hardest setting is so hard.
Yeah, do you remember that one boss? It's some chick with her knockers out in a church.
Yes, yeah.
Fucked up, dude. What a dude. Anyways.
Hey, doesn't Contra Hardcore have like that? What's it called? Is it section? It's not section 7. It's something mode 7 or something like that. I mean, it's Sega, so maybe not.
It's not technically mode 7, but they do some pretty cool scrolling levels.
Yeah, parallax scrolling, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Do you remember what level it was?
Are you talking about the one where you're on the highway?
Just like I remember it existed.
You said mode what?
You know, it's like that whole thing where it's like the perspective is like going straight on, like you're running.
Oh no, it didn't have any of that stuff. So
only a Super Nintendo.
So Contra 3 Alien Wars had the overhead, and it used that like I think that's what you're talking about, the Super Nintendo mode where it does that like crazy like pseudo 3D
fake
shit.
3D, yeah.
Yeah, and but it did an overhead.
Sega was the system that often did that, not Super Nintendo.
Yeah. So, well, there's different techniques.
This is a cool fucking boss.
Mode 7 was there's 7 different layers, graphic modes for Super Nintendo. You know, like mode 1 is like sprites, and then there's the different background layers, and then mode 7 is essentially the rotation of a background image, essentially, which allows it to give you that pseudo 3D effect. It's like something like Pilot Wings. It's just kind of a really big bitmap, but they're able to rotate it in different ways to give you a 3D effect. And the nice thing about that is that it was like, it didn't take additional resources to use it, like some of the, scrolling that developers used on Genesis.
Yeah, because like there's a lot of games on Genesis that use it, though, right?
Yeah.
Like some of the Sonic games even used it, and then Ranger X, which is on my list, definitely used it. The Mickey Mania and Lion King games that we talked about last week, those games used it.
So what Justin has up here is like, I forgot about this. It has the most over the top like last level where you actually climb on a fucking missile
Yeah, it's
and this
awesome.
art, yeah. Oh my god, yeah, it's so good.
Oh man, dope. Yeah, well, that's one of those games I'm like, I'm never gonna try to beat it. It's fucking impossible for someone like me.
It's one of the it's actually all like muscle memory and memorization. Um, because once you have it, like I've beaten it in every path and everything. Like I got into it like probably back in 2020, and I had the collection on PlayStation. I played through it all again. I did every single pathway, and I think I did it with like every character but Fang. And it's just all memorization because the bosses have a like a preset
A
like
prescriptive
moves.
pattern.
Yeah, prescript. Yeah, there you go, prescriptive pattern. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
All
like
right,
I played Batman NES and beat the whole thing a while back, and it's the same thing. I mean, the game is hard
Ninja
as
Gaiden,
balls.
Mega Man, yeah.
Yeah. Those games, it's like the bosses have a prescript, and as long as you know the prescript, like you see the tell, you move for the thing. Super Castlevania on SNES, the same thing. Like, yeah.
Speaking of prescripted patterns, Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Woo!
So that's one that none of us have on our list. That is kind of a deep
Oh,
cut.
we can.
I see what you did there.
That's right.
Talk about
Yeah,
Mike Tyson's Punch Out. What's that mean to you?
everything. That was the game that I used to watch my big brother play, and it was too hard for me when I was little, and then I got older and figured out what pattern
Of course, you
recognition
got to
was.
start there at the bike.
I'm not going to sing the song.
Yeah, I know the song.
Yeah, but
Yeah, like the rash of World of Warcraft guilds named after that
oh
that
geez.
that meme. It's ridiculous.
But yeah,
This game is
all
so
the
good, though.
boxers do mainly like a pre-scripted pattern for the most part, or they'll do a it's like it branches at times. Like they'll either do this or this, but if they do it, but anyway, like you remember, it's the same deal as Contra. You memorize the pattern and you win. But it's just a super fun game, and I don't know. Watching the speed runs of this is actually like a lot of fun.
It's
I got
impressive.
into Contra, like I'm not Contra. I got into Punch Out not too long ago, and I was messing around with it, and then I was like, hey, I wonder like how insane some of these people are, and it's ridiculous.
We gotta go to him.
Oh, the
Yeah,
speedrunners are ridiculous for sure.
yeah. I feel like with Punch Out, there's like two kinds of players, right? There's the kind that's like you're like me, and you're like, I got to Soda Popinski once, and then I just can't beat it. And then you got people who are like, no, this is all I play. I have beaten Mike Tyson. It's like you did what? Like you're a fucking god. Oh my god.
So
And that's the shit I miss about like our era growing up, was that like you would have that schoolyard conversation, or people talking about, did you hear he said he beat Mike Tyson? Like, no, he didn't. No one can beat Mike Tyson. Stuff like that.
so I've been able to in the past been able to get to Mike Tyson, but I think I've only beat Mike Tyson one time, and it may have been by decision. I don't fully remember, but literally the hardest last boss of any game ever, in my
It's
opinion.
fucking crazy.
Like any of those uppercuts literally knock you down in one hit.
It's
Uh,
like watching the reaction speed you need. It's just fucking crazy.
Now the wing punches don't knock you down in one hit, but they're still pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's too bad we didn't get Mike Tyson and Super Punch Out. They could have had like a ear bite move added.
I was like, I think he was going through a lot during that time, and they wanted to distance themselves, right?
He's going.
So this is one of the instances where, like, franchise-wise, I wish I could have added like Punch Out on Wii, because
Yeah.
that game's awesome. And I really wish they would put out another Punch Out game, and I'm really hoping, because they're not afraid to put out Punch Out games on their like virtual console thing or whatever it's called now, because they have Punch Out on the Nintendo one, and then Super Punch Out on the SNES one. So I'm like really hoping that they'll roll out a new one eventually.
I mean, you would hope so, and the Switch would be perfect for it with both the motion controllers.
Yeah, you
But
could do a motion one, or
yeah, I mean, motion controller or use analog, but you could definitely do it. I don't know why they haven't.
Yeah, that
I
was one of
mean,
the cool things about the Wii one is if you had the balance board, you could use nunchuck.
Yeah.
You could do the full body control with
It reminds me of that thing they
nunchuck.
had at Scandia. Remember the boxing arcade
Oh
game?
hell yeah!
We dug it around.
Mocap boxing.
Yeah.
Yep, there's that, and then Police 911.
wasn't there a
Oh, I
boxing
forgot about
game
that
for
game.
Xbox that used the 360 motion capture thing?
Oh, the Kinect?
Yeah, I think there was a Kinect
Probably.
one.
I don't know if it's remarkable at all.
Probably not.
Yeah, the real gem was Star Wars Connect, where you dance in the fucking Tatooine, whatchamacallit, the cantina. You get to do like DDR with Sonic, Just Dance, whatever the fuck. Absolutely hilarious.
All right, Dino. Anything else you want to talk about your list? Anything you want to highlight?
I think it's fun to talk about the weird stuff or the stuff that's not on anybody else's list. Let me see if there's anything that hardly anyone's played.
Have y'all ever played a game called Super
how
Mario?
have only two of you played Tetris DS?
I mean, it's the form factor, right?
It's
Yeah.
but the Nintendo Tetris DS is like the best one.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So I will say the
Super
reason
fun
why I never played
multiplayer.
it is because I didn't get a DS till like way late, and I only got a couple of games for it. Like when did the DS come out?
I would say like
Ooh.
2005.
Oh, that's why World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
That I can tell you right now. That's why I didn't have it.
Yeah, it had
So like from 2005 until whenever Craig and I, whenever you guys, we both quit WoW. So like 2008, 2009. 2005 to 2009 was a black box of gaming for me. Like I had games sitting in the plastic that I purchased that I never opened. I had Dragon Quest 8 wrapped in saran wrap in my closet that I didn't open until after 2009.
so let
So
me
if
tell
it
you
came
how
out during that time, I did not play it.
let me tell you how ubiquitous this game was. Like I was literally standing in line for the like Burning Crusade pre-release in like 2006
Did we?
and everybody used to carry their DSs around back then, and like you
Yeah.
could
Which was
play
the style at the
multiplayer on
time.
one cart. So I was like playing random people in line like on Tetris DS, and that's like how sick that game was. Everybody loved it.
Yeah, the nice thing about it was it gave you a good amount of variety. The alternative modes were actually really fun. I know I mentioned it in chat before, but there was a touch mode where you have a giant. It would take up both of the screens. You had a giant tower of malfitting Tetris pieces, and then on the touch screen on the bottom, you'd be moving those pieces together to create lines. So it's kind of almost like it's still Tetris, but it's it's not falling blocks. It's kind of like the opposite. Very cool mode, very addicting. Also kind of relaxing in a weird way. And then the underrated, just the main mode, right, where you try to get to a level 100, right? I think you'd have to get like 250 lines or something like that. But what was really cool is that the backgrounds would be constantly changing to different themed Nintendo games. And it was just these really cool, seamless transitions. Music's changing, just really cool side visuals. Not to mention it just, played really well.
I do not remember
the
there
music
being
was
That's
awesome.
Yeah, great music.
Yeah, and my favorite thing about it is, and I think we'll probably end up talking about this when we start throwing in 50 games, but my favorite thing about this was that like one person had to own it. So we'd be standing in that line for the midnight release with a bunch of people. And we'd be like, hey, we're starting up some Tetris. Anyone want to get on the download? And then you could have 8 people all playing in this line at the same time off one game. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, download play was really
They
cool.
definitely fixed that later and made it so everybody had to have the game.
Yeah.
There's still a couple games here and there that like there's this game on Switch. It's called Jesus. It's like Card Game Club or some shit. It's a super generic name, and it's got checkers, Chinese checkers, dominoes, poker. It's got 50 different games. First party Nintendo under the radar release on the Switch, but that actually does have download play, which is pretty cool. So if you just want to be like, hey, do you want to play a game of Texas Hold'em? Like, all right, yeah, hop on download play.
Quick, clear off the card table. We got to play our DSs here.
That game also has Mahjong on it.
Yep.
I knew you were like sitting there stewing because someone said like card games, and I was like, is he gonna talk about Mahjong?
It's totally on there.
Yeah, so I don't think you're gonna see anything like this ever again. Especially, dare I say, culturally significant, like where people are carrying around their handheld and then like ad hoc like hopping into games with each other. Like we don't even get to do Street Pass anymore, and that was like badass. Street Pass is like, just remember what they took from us. Like
That's
you
the
go to
best
like,
part.
Josh
you
can
go
talk
to a
about Street Pass.
convention and you get tagged like 300 times, and it was
Oh, yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Late at night, driving to every McDonald's so you could get the Street Pass pickups.
Oh my god! Like, why
McDonald's
did
and
they take?
Starbucks, I think.
They need to bring
Yeah.
it back.
Yeah, I remember Josh and Ramiro and Berto where they were all like doing the Street Pass thing. Oh,
Mhm.
you guys were doing a bunch of stuff. And you guys were just going crazy with it.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You guys were like, we're going to this convention.
I love when video games and real life kind of like blend together. That's what made me like when they
Pokemon,
did the Poke Walkers for Heart and Gold and Soul Silver. That was super cool too. I remember like we went to Disneyland and there was people walking around with like Poke Walkers on their pockets and stuff.
Yeah, and
That
it
was really
was
fun.
cool. Yeah, it's just like
Yeah.
you'd see someone be like, "Hey, you're like me," you know?
Well, remember, and there was a thing where you touch them and like you could trade candy or something, and you would see someone with the Poke Walker like, "Hey, you want to touch balls?" And you just you tap the Poke Walkers and you could trade something. I forgot what it was.
Do you remember
it was
that
fun.
RPG game that you would play with Street Pass, like with the tokens? And then when you like cleared certain
Yeah.
rooms, you got accessory items for your
Oh
Mii,
yeah.
and you could like put hats on them and stuff. Like
hmm
Yeah, I
That-
love that thing.
they took all of that away. Like it was so good.
Yeah, Nintendo will never make that mistake again
Nope.
because all
never.
that was free, and they don't want anyone to do that again.
I still miss the Miiverse, man. I think me and Chris are the only people that cared about the Miiverse.
I
Yep.
liked it.
Loved it.
The Willem Dafoe-verse is
Did you know
just-
they developed special software to detect penis like drawings so that they could keep it off of the Miiverse?
That's amazing.
It sounds very Nintendo. Miyamoto-san, we need you to work on the dick software.
So somebody's job was to like, make some dick recognition software.
Like
Oh, man.
AI can't do anything, but it can recognize a dick at 50 fucking yards.
Have you seen that Silicon Valley where it's like hot dog, no hot dog?
No.
No.
So this guy was making like I'll keep it short because it's like very off topic, but he was making like software to like detect food, but then they realized that like it could detect whether something was a hot dog or not, and then they were able to sell that to another company because they wanted to use it for like penis detection software.
Oh
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Nice. All right. Well, shit. There is your list, Dino. It is lovely talking.
Thanks.
All right. So we've all talked about our list, what's important, what we hated to cut, what our hidden gems and things like that. Now we get to the reason why we're here, right? We have our favorite games individually, but how do we take all of those games and then condense it down to a 50 between all of us under the form of the amorphous blob? So looking at the screen right here, we're gonna do this in 3 phases. We're gonna do the phase 1, which will ostensibly be starting now. Phase 1 will be unranked games confirmed at the top 50. So this is just 50 games this is the stuff we want to argue about. We are agreeing to argue about it. The fact that it's 1 through 10 right here doesn't mean anything. 10 or 11 to 20 doesn't mean anything. It's just going in the list. From there, once we build out our 50, we're gonna go to phase 2, which is bracketing. And really, this is just a way for us to like take the impossible task of taking 50 games and putting it in rank. Instead, we're just doing 5 top 10s. So I think that'll be an interesting conversation too. And then obviously with the games, one of the stipulations I wanted to do was that everybody's number 1 that is an automatic buy into the top 10. Not simply because we like it the best, but typically games like encompass a big part of us in like childhood or our personality. It's like how we games and just the way they do things. So they're hugely influential. So yeah, so these 6 games are all of our individual number ones. Mine is Final Fantasy VII's. Chris Rivera's is Super Metroid. Chris Gravitz is World of Warcraft. Justin's is Rainbow Six Siege. Josh's is Final Fantasy IX, and is Resident Evil 2 Remake. For how long we've known each other, that's surprising to me, but I dig it. It's cool. So one of the things we did decide on is that the games that are shared between 4 boys. So this means 4 of us individually have this
Or
game on our
more.
list. No, it's if there's no 5s. I know for a fact there's no 5s.
Okay.
So there's so
And there's
4
no
of us
6?
obviously not. Well,
Okay.
there may be 5s or 6s, but they're probably here.
Well, there's Elder
Like
Scrolls
Super
5.
Metroid and stuff like
Okay.
that. Got it. So yeah, so these are games that 4 of us have on the list. These are games that 3 of us all have on our individual lists, and games that 2 of us all individually have on our lists. Off camera, we agreed that the games that 4 of us and 3 of us have are automatically going in the unranked, unbracketed top. From there, we'll suss out what goes where. From with each individual game, what I wanted to do was take the total scores of something, right? So if you look at Chrono Trigger, you've got me having it at number 4. Dino has it as number 3, so that's 7, 9, 11. There's the score. And then we divide it up by 4 people. Gives us an average rating of 2. This doesn't necessarily mean that this is like has to go in this place or not this place, but it just gives you a kind of clearer picture of like how well something is liked.
Yeah, so the lower the number, the better it did.
In
So
the
you have
rating.
games like Warcraft 3. I mean, that's a pretty good score,
Yeah.
right? Ocarina of Time or Link to the Past, those are really good scores. But the problem though here, and this is what's going to be interesting, is we have only 50 slots and we each have a list of 50 and we have too many games to make it on this. So how do we eliminate what we need to eliminate? And I vote that we go through our list, start at the bottom, and we start from the bottom and we work our way
Now
up to
we're
the
here.
top. That's right.
What if we also gave some of them extra points, like if more people played them? Like maybe only 2 people had a game on their list, but like 4 people played that game. That means that was like probably a pretty interesting game to a lot of people.
I mean, it could have been a game that you played, but you ended up not enjoying it that much, though, too, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you could have played something and hated it. Craig and Breath of the Wild.
Right.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like I'm like the mad outlaw who can't pay attention to a video game, so stuff like Breath of the Wild and like Elder Scrolls is going to be rough on me.
Yeah.
But I am not
Like you
6
played them,
people.
but
I'm one of
you
6.
didn't like them.
So
So yeah. But we got to start from the bottom somewhere and start eliminating stuff. I think that's probably the best place to do it. Unless you have some errant game in the middle that you know you love that is, I think you can clearly admit is not the greatest game, but it's on your personal list, you know? Like, because our lists are not just our list because we think they're truly the best game. They're the best game for you. I will say, like, if we're gonna start somewhere, I can start. I
I
have go ahead.
I have a great idea. What if we have somebody go through these items and then like you know, if somebody objects, then they can speak up like why this shouldn't go in. And
Unless you
then
have one on your own list that you're okay with removing.
I'm sure that's a possibility too. But I mean, like, so you know, you're going to like BioShock. Does anybody object to BioShock making it the top 50 combined or
Yeah, I
whatever?
mean,
You know, yeah.
we might have a combination of both of those. Like maybe there's some that you're okay with pulling off your list, and you readily admit, I know, for instance, that this game is not top 50 material, but I love it anyways. It's It's my
I
abusive
think
ex that I just love, right?
I think the original way we were talking about it, just going around and eliminating, is better in this case because we have 25 games on this list. When we pull from the 3 and the 4, we have that means we have 25 empty spaces. So if we start throwing things in, we'll fill up the 50 and be like, wait, what about this? Oh, I want that in there, stuff like that. Whereas like if we start whittling these down, then we have a smaller number. We go until smaller until we have like 25. And that is if we do these two, like, just go for the 2 column. Does that make sense?
And
Honestly,
how
I
many
think
total do we have to eliminate then, right? Like a
We
lot.
like if we pulled from the 2 and filled up the rest of the slots, it would be 17 games we'd have to
Between all of us, total 17 that have to be removed.
from this column. Like if you wanted to pull all the data from this column and make it into 50 over here, there's 42 over here. We have 25 empty spots. And that's what I was saying earlier. Like, is there anything
No,
we want to
I'm
like
saying
squeeze
like
in there?
if you look at all of our lists, we've got a lot more than just 17 games to eliminate. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
Uh-oh. Gotta happen once a session.
First, and I will nominate my number 25, Castlevania Legacy of Darkness for N64. I know it is not a world-changing game. I know that it is not the world's greatest Castlevania game. I know that there are better Castlevania games that I didn't even put on the list, but it's a personal favorite for me that I love, and so I put it on my list. But I'm cool with eliminating it. Did
It also
anybody play
has
that one at all?
oh yeah, I own a copy of it.
Yeah.
It has one of the most awkward running animations. It's great.
It truly is.
Have you seen the videos of that like unreleased Castlevania game for Dreamcast?
Yep. Castlevania Resurrection, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it was gonna be the game that would have made me buy a Dreamcast, but it didn't come out.
okay, so if we go this route, that means every single person has to go through their list, and we all list them saying, "I'm going to get rid of this."
Look,
this,
I think we can all go through our list and eliminate one. I think that's an easy place to start. Right? Like we all can like look at our list and be like, okay, here's a game that I know I could pull off the list.
Right.
So
okay, so do you want me to do like a strike through right there?
yeah, just or just highlight it red. So then you know.
Yeah, whatever.
So I just want to say I know it's not the greatest game, but I love it so much. And the reason why it was on my list is when that game came out, you know, I got an N64. I bought it myself with my own money. Like I grew up without a lot of money, and like we got the power shut off on us. Like, how do you get your phone shut off when your dad works for the phone company? Like that level. And I saved up money by doing odd jobs and like having people give me money instead of presents for my birthday. Oh, this is like towards the end of the game, Tower of Sorcery.
Spoiler.
Yeah, the cool thing about this game, or one of the many cool things, I think there's 4 campaigns. So this is the first campaign, Cornell.
Yeah,
He's a werewolf.
it's
You
like
can
a
turn into
prequel.
yeah, so you can turn into a werewolf, and it takes up your your hearts or whatever. It's kind of like supersonic mode,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. And
So
so the thing is, well, I was just gonna say the thing is this was a second release of the Castlevania for N64. They put out another one that had Reinhardt and what was her name?
Carrie, I believe.
Carrie, yeah.
Yeah.
And the game was not well received. Um, and then they put this version out, which did a lot better. I think partially because, to be frank, like this character is more likable, and you got different levels, or the levels were like similar but played through different. Plus, like you got to be a werewolf, which was cool. And so it's a prequel. The first like campaign with him, with Cornell, is a prequel to the N64 Castlevania game, which then you play. So if you play and beat the game with Cornell, you get this ending with like defeating Dracula or whatever kind of that then leads to your secondary story. It happens like 7 or 10 years before the game. And one of the characters that you save is like this little boy named Henry.
Yep.
And if you beat the game, you actually get this sort of like a side quest mini game kind of that you do little shortened versions of the levels where you play this knight in armor named
With
Henry
guns.
with guns, and he is the kid that you saved who like goes back to fight
Good old
demons and stuff.
vampire
It was
guns.
actually it was really cool, and I think I liked it because of the southern plantation level that's like early on in the game. It's like a vampire house, and you basically you save or slash help a vampire, um, and then you're chased by a dude with a chainsaw for a hand in a hedge maze, and it's like kind of freaky. It like would always stress me out. I don't know. I love this game a lot, but 100%, I know it's not a great game, and I'm okay with pulling it off.
It,
Is
All
there?
right.
Is there
We're gonna have to go much faster if we're gonna do this like this.
all
Let's,
right, that's fine. We can go faster.
yeah, just because like each one of us we're gonna like whittle down our own individual lists and the things that we want to be in the conversation.
Right.
Yeah, that's
I
like
I'm
I-
okay with taking Power Pete off as well. I know it's like a weird personal pick, and then none of you guys played it, so we can pull it off. I'm okay with pulling that one off.
Power.
I'm actually thinking because we currently have in the phase 1 confirmed games, right? We have the 25 games. I think we should I think we should also go through and just be like adding games that nominating a game that we think should be on there, and if someone says no, then we can have the discussion. Because I mean, yeah, because if you look at it, there's a lot of games unique to our list that we have to cut. And, like that's a lot of fucking
Yeah,
games.
I mean, we're gonna do
Yeah.
more than one of these too, though, right? So like
Yeah.
cutting them is one, and then we can go through and we know what makes the list, right? So if we know we got to cut X amount, we go through, we cut games, and we're like, okay, now we got enough to add to the list, right? And then we can argue about the order, but at least cutting them, we got to cut stuff, right?
So how about like let's do some layups, right? Because that'll just make it easier. So like Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne. That's going in, right?
Sure,
And
that goes on the list.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I thought the idea was to start from the bottom and move our way up, but if you want to start from the middle and work our way down, and then
yeah, when I
eliminate
said
and
like
then
the
go
bottom, I
back.
meant the bottom of like this list.
Yeah,
this
but I'm saying
column?
like we don't know what to put on there until we have stuff eliminated, right?
Not necessarily,
Right.
because like I think we can go through and like, for example, if you look at the existing list, right, and you go, okay, I think Red Dead Redemption 1 should be in, and then people would go, okay, or no, and then we have a discussion there, because I think either way we're gonna come to more than 50 games, like no matter what, and then also no matter what, I think we're gonna disagree with the rankings, like no matter what initial steps that we take, we're going to want to fine tune things either way,
Yeah, I guess.
I just realized I fucked up the numbering on this.
This,
I'll have to
so
fix that
should
later.
we just yay or nay like the entire Two Boys list?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Because I think, I mean, like, I don't know if we want to do these little majority votes or whatever, but I think Warcraft 3 goes in there. I think, Breath of the Wild goes in there, MVC 2. But yeah, how about let's throw Warcraft in there? Is anyone opposed to Warcraft 3?
Being on the list, no, I think it's fine.
Josh, you're good?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. So we can do that. And then so like, how about people start nominating stuff? I mean, like, 90
To
fucking
make it
people here are gonna
just
say
to make it on the list somewhere, and then we'll order it later.
Yep.
That's fine.
Yep.
yeah.
So I think either way, just getting even if it ends up being 75, that's like that in itself is going to take a while, and then ordering that's going to be like a whole other couple hours as well, I assume.
All right.
Also, what is the criteria? Like, are we trying to pick games that everybody likes, or games that are we trying to argue just like these games are strictly good and like, from like a critic point of view?
Well, I guess technically it's everybody's personal favorite. So, like, for example, Justin, like if you said like Inscription should be 100% on the list, I still haven't played it. I know Craig's played it, uh, but I think that people like you and Craig are so passionate about it that someone like me who hasn't played it, like, I have no issue with that. Yeah. So I mean, because like ultimately, we want to have everybody's tastes represented in one way or another, right? Because if it is just all the games that we have in common, like we could just run that through like an algorithm in Excel, right?
Yeah, and I think every game will have its like spotlight, right? So like some of these games, maybe Inscription, right? We're just trying to get it on the list. And so this is when I'll pull up the YouTube video. We'll talk a little bit about why we think it should be on the list. We'll make our case. People, we can, and then we put it to a vote or something, or see if we have enough rallying. And then when we start talking about like, I think Street Fighter should be above Mega Man or something like that, that's when we had the discussion about the impacts of Street Fighter 2 and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Whereas, like,
for me, like it just like my obsessive compulsive brain, it just sees it's strange to like work through the middle of the list and not eliminate stuff. So like it might be better for us to just go through the stuff that we in the Two Boys list, right? And just go down. If you want to just go through it and drop it over, and then eliminate stuff we want to eliminate, you can, and then
yeah,
see how many we have left.
I
So,
wanted to go for like the easiest stuff first, right? So like the easiest thing is saying
right.
like, yeah, everybody thinks Warcraft 3 and Breath of the Wild should be, and then like probably not a lot of people are gonna want to like put Dead by Daylight or something like that. So yeah, just the easiest stuff first. If you guys just want to do like that, like, hey, I want to nominate this because I think it's
Yeah.
gonna
Okay.
I want to eliminate this because no one cares. Cool.
Like, yeah, that might make sense. Or just like going straight down the list so that we don't have to like think about it might also make sense.
Let's
Sure.
go through it.
Okay.
Is there anybody who has any rough feelings about Morrowind besides Craig? You can go pound sand.
I have no rough feelings about Morrowind, but I would like some convincing because I have never played Morrowind. And I know most people nowadays shit the bed over Skyrim, obviously, right? But I have
So you're gonna
heard
hate
that
Morrowind more
Morrowind.
than you hate Oblivion or Skyrim.
So
I'm never playing this shit. You can't make me do it.
Imagine Skyrim, but with no waypoint, with no quest book, not real quest book. The only way to actually have the game help you with like knowing where to go is to download a fuckload of add-ons. That's the only way to do it.
Well, like,
Because
what was it about this game?
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. I think I have Morrowind rated the highest personally out of anyone's list. I think, right?
It didn't make it on mine personally, but I mean,
so is this Justin and Chris then?
I have it slightly higher than you, but we both have it in top 10.
Okay. So yeah, when this game came out, just kind of for reference, I want to say this game came out in 2002. I want to say.
Text?
I don't know what they're doing, what you're watching, but
I don't know. It's just text. Let's try a different video.
Any video I've ever seen of Morrowind is someone fucking like running around the countryside.
Dang, that looks fun. Look at that.
Anyway, so what I was saying is when this game came out, it's around 2000. I want to say it was early 2002 is when this game came out on PC and OG Xbox.
Right, so the PS2 era.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of anything remotely open world, GTA 3, had released maybe 4 or 5 months before Skyrim, right? And Morrowind, sorry. And in comparison, GTA 3, love it, revolutionary, incredible game. But your average person, that was their reference for what an open world game could do in the early 2000s, right? Morrowind, it's the first game that I ever played that was fully 3D that really felt like you could do whatever you want, right? So all the things that Skyrim is lauded for, being able to pick up anything you want, do whatever you want, this game was doing all that stuff in 2002, right?
What do you mean,
be
like
fair-
fully 3D? Because I mean, like you got Super Mario 64, right?
I'm talking about open world,
And to be
worlds.
fair,
An
can I
open
just
world
make an
3D game.
argument really quick with Skyrim? Is you can't actually go anywhere you want.
You talking about
Because-
Morrowind? Skyrim?
No. Listen, the reason why I'm bringing up Skyrim is because Skyrim is always lauded for all these things, but Morrowind, in some ways, because of it being an earlier era, actually allowed you to really go wherever you wanted. So you see down there in the bottom left, like the red, blue, and the green bar, like the more you jumped in the game, the better your jumping got. So like it was use based abilities. The more you used the ability, the better you got at it, the more skills you got in it. You could eventually, if you took off all of your stuff and you had max level jumping, you could jump over buildings, which means you could jump to the highest point of
Like-
any mountain. Yeah. Like it was kind of retarded. It was kind of broken. And there are things about the game that, like, by today's standards, are just a fucking bad idea. Like, you could get the dagger that you need to beat the game with, and you could just drop it out of your inventory and, like, fucking put it on a mountainside, and who knows where it went, and it's gone forever. You can't beat the game. Like,
Couldn't you
that-
kill like necessary NPCs and stuff
yes,
too?
Yep.
yes, you
Yep.
could. You could kill necessary NPCs, and your game is ruined. And like, they don't tell you that. So in some ways, the game was really truly about letting you go and do whatever you wanted. And this was also the first game where like you downloaded a bunch of mods that let you do a bunch of crazy shit. Like that, I remember there's a mod that I had that was the Tower of Orthanc from Lord of the Rings, and then I had another mod that let me play as a Moogle with a Buster Sword, and you could you had wings, you could like jump over half the continent, just like do crazy shit because it's early era PC, and you were just happy you could do any of that shit.
Honestly, this is the most I've ever watched this game, and it looks a lot more interesting than I thought it would.
Yeah, dude, it's
So I would make an argument that if you want to try this game, you actually really should. But when you do,
a fuck ton of mods.
fuckload of mods, fuckload of mods.
yeah.
Like,
There's
you
some
have to
really
get
good visual overhauls. There's
it
ones that'll
completely
put
makes everything look new. Yeah, and
Yeah,
there's one that makes it so you can't delete important items or kill quest NPCs.
Good quality of life stuff.
Yeah, like
Exactly.
quality of life stuff that they should have had that they didn't.
Yep.
But yeah, this was a game that was I don't feel that the mainstream really caught up to this type of gameplay until Skyrim came out, and Skyrim came out late 2011, almost 10 years later. So I mean, this game was just way ahead of its time in general to what your average developer was doing.
It's just like the timing is that it's way ahead of its time, and he's just doing this. I'm fucking just-
Taking away the advantages that like Skyrim has as a more modern game, which is kind of a silly thing to say since that game came out like 12 years ago. Do you think that this was a better iteration than Skyrim?
I would say it was a better iteration for its time than Skyrim. Skyrim, has better combat. It's more polished.
I mean,
but-
I would say Oblivion is probably, in my opinion, I think Oblivion is the better of those three.
Ugh.
I like Oblivion a lot, but
Ugh.
I know, whatever, fuck you, but I like it.
Oblivion, we're not even going to get into it. But anyways, Morrowind, like I said, for its time, it was on some whole other shit. And I remember when I first got it, it was over the summer of 2002. I just remember playing this game, 8 hours a day, for weeks on end, just fucking around, going just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to go in this direction for the next several hours and just see what I find. And there was yeah, I mean, it was a similar feeling, but with this game, there was nothing like it, especially on consoles when it came out.
Oh yeah, no, there's nothing like it. Yeah, I mean, I will say it's not on my list, but I spent a lot of time with the game, and I had friends who spent a lot of time with the game who's house, I would sit at their house and like we would dick around and like do weird shit on Morrowind on the PC. It is a really fun game. I tried to go back and play it a couple of years ago with a fuckload of mods, and it makes the game a lot better. But in some ways, the story is more compelling in like Oblivion and Skyrim. So it being good for its time, I agree, but I don't know how well it holds up gameplay wise over time.
Yeah,
So do
that's
you,
definitely the weak point is easily the combat. The
So-
exploration, and I still love all that stuff, but
Yeah, that stuff's all cool. I just like, especially, thinking about the actual gameplay, it doesn't hold up all that well.
so my concern
I
is
actually think that most aspects of the gameplay hold up. It's just like more the combat and kind of
Yeah,
like the
I'm saying
lack
the
of
combat itself doesn't hold up.
right, because in other senses, the gameplay, almost all the systems that are in Skyrim, making spells, like all the alchemy stuff,
Lock picking, yeah, all
yeah,
that stuff.
all that crazy shit is in this game.
Was this like the first game of its kind? Was this like the first like Elder Scrolls that did this whole?
So the first two Elder
Blueprint?
Scrolls, the very first one, it's called Arena. It's actually the biggest one out of all of them. But if you look at it, it looks like if you tried to make a Doom,
Big
but you try
poo-poo.
to make it an open world RPG. The
That's
second
also
one was
randomly generated.
exactly. It's all procedurally generated. The second one, Daggerfall, was a little bit more deliberate in its design, but it's still just way too dorky for me. I like Daggerfall. I couldn't. That was the first one I ever saw. And go ahead.
so I have a question. Like, is this kind of a case where you try to play this and you're gonna play it for like 15 or 20 minutes, say, fuck this, I'm just gonna go play Skyrim.
Probably.
If
Yeah.
you've never played it, then yeah. If you're me, then no.
Yeah.
Here, I want to bring up like an idea, like holistically with this list. I want to hear, like Chris and Justin have this on the list. I want to hear their passionate speeches. I want to hear why Justin is so into this game. Like, what is it about your experience with it that we should put it on this list?
All right. So you know how you were talking about you're talking to people at school, or people at like work or whatever, and you're like, your friends are playing this game, and they're like, oh, I found this secret in Mario. You gotta like jump up and blah blah blah. That was like Morrowind was like just janky enough to where you could talk to your friends and you'd be like, oh, I crafted an invisibility scroll and went into the middle of the desert and like turned myself invisible and then like stole the best armor in the game like from right behind like this like super buff guy, it like I feel like Skyrim is probably like quote unquote better, but it's also just kind of like cleaner and more like muted, I guess. Whereas,
I think the term for what you're talking about is like emergent gameplay. Where it's
Yeah.
like stuff just happens and then you
Yeah, so
tell stories about it.
Chris Grad brought it up where you can literally kill NPCs or you can lose items in this game that literally make it so you can't progress the main story.
Yeah, you see where the screen is paused on the screen share? That dagger right there, you need that to kill the bad guy who's in front of you. And if you accidentally put it someplace, that's it, you're screwed.
Well, it's funny because like Justin's like, yeah, let me tell you this cool stuff. You guys like, yeah, it's really cool. Like when you break the game because you sold the dagger, you can't beat it. Oh, dude, 10 out of 10. Yeah, we gotta put this on.
Listen, so what I was gonna say is that Morrowind, it has this, you can do whatever the fuck you want, but it doesn't have it with all the edges rounded off. And people like myself, sounds like Justin has a similar opinion where like that shit, like even though it's ridiculous and janky, it somehow makes it better and more charming. Just because it's like all that kind of stuff, kind of like what Justin was alluding to with Skyrim, like all that stuff's been polished and the game's still buggy, but the potential to do absolutely ridiculous, crazy shit and then tell your friends about it, it's a lot less in Skyrim.
Yeah, they have like guardrails up and kind of that kind of thing.
Yeah, but I want to.
There's always a balance. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say I just want to let Justin continue his his Morrowind props.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess the other thing with Morrowind versus like Skyrim is that like uh people are like hardcore like elf racist in this game.
Yeah.
You know, like the
Yeah.
people are like not nice, or like it's a lot less like you go into the new town and everybody's just sort of like, hello traveler, you know, I have a quest for you. It's more like you like have to find like kind of find your way around, and you have to like kind of earn people's trust, and that's like another thing that I feel like is gone from some of the more polished stuff.
Is the player character? Is that what you're talking about? Like it's like you are the person who's like hated. You know, you're saying they're elf.
No, you
racist?
can be anything. They just don't like elves. So if you make an elf, they're racist against you.
Yeah, you're like you're a dark elf, and you show up to Balmora, which is like one of the first big cities in the game, and like half the NPCs are like, "What the fuck are you doing here, dude?"
Or if
That's
you're a
cool. For
Khajiit, they'll look
2002,
down
that's
on you
pretty
too.
badass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that was like way
it's-
before Trump was president, so people weren't like as racist at the time. So
Oh god.
Outwardly, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, those are just the little, details, and it wasn't just like dark elves. If you're a Nord or whatever, especially for that time, like that stuff was pretty novel.
Jesus Christ, I thought I paused the video. It's just fucking. What the fuck, dude?
Yeah,
Oh,
see,
there you
that's
go.
Dagoth,
Got that Turok 64 combat right here.
it's Dagoth Ur, and that's the dagger you need to kill him. Again, if you toss the dagger, you're fucked. And I know that because
Yeah.
I did it. I tossed the dagger and then I couldn't beat the game.
so let me ask, was there any
200 hours into my game, and I realized I couldn't beat it, and I just said, you know what, that's enough. I googled what happened and watched a video. That's how I beat Morrowind.
so was there any kind of like hint that dagger might have been
Nope.
important? Any dialogue?
Nope. I picked it up. I was like, oh, this doesn't have very good stats on it, and I put it someplace, and then I don't know what happened to it. So no idea. And then I tried to go back like 200 hours later and try to backtrack like where I went, and
Gotcha.
nothing. Yeah. I will say like the
Yeah.
spell combat and all that stuff is like cooler in this game because there's all kinds of these like weird spells that let you teleport or like go across the map and stuff.
Cool.
Is that
Yeah,
is
it
that the no
sounds like.
clips?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the thing about this game is just like, yeah, like you guys are saying, the freedom it allots you, like the stories you can create, the idea of like taking a game in 2002 and saying like, yeah, which race do you want to be? Oh, you're gonna be this one. Now people are gonna treat you totally differently.
That's why I would
awesome.
argue that this game as a base game by itself does not deserve to be on the list. But if you get it with the mods that at least help you keep from throwing away the dagger and help you with your quest, then it could make it on the list. I don't know how you feel about needing a mod or two to make it on the list, but
Well, I mean, I would say if there's you got two people, Justin has it as 6, I have it as 10. It should at least be in the running for the 50.
yeah, no, for sure. So like that's where we're all trying to argue, like,
So
should we eliminate it from the 50 or keep it? Because there's
Well, I
Yeah.
think no matter what, we're going to have more than
Well-
that 50. You know what I'm saying?
So what I think we should do is kind of like, I don't want to say yes or no right now, or I mean like if it is a clear yes against everybody, cool. But like I like the idea of having like a maybe kind of slot. So like once we go through the 50, we can go back and be like, okay, out of all the ones that we definitely want in there, we have this many slots left. Now
Right,
out of
so-
these maybes, what do we want to put in there?
Yeah, so
maybe
let's
do like
put it on the list and highlight it yellow as a maybe, and then if we want to eliminate it, then we can argue about that later.
Well, I would say that Breath of the Wild and Warcraft 3, I think, are definites, right?
Yeah, but
So
we're going
right
down,
there.
we're going right down the
yellow.
list, right?
Let's say for
gonna
maybes,
do-
we'll do like an orange or something.
Blue,
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
just so it
Oh,
makes it easier to differentiate when we come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yellow for me was gonna be like it's already on there.
Okay.
Cool. But yeah, no, that's the way you guys sell it. Like that sounds really cool. My only reason that like I'm not sure about it is because we have Skyrim already on there, and I don't know. It's just like it, I feel the way like I would create a list. It's like I wouldn't just put like the same game then like with a new skin on it. We added a couple more bells and whistles and did all that. But I mean, that's an argument we'll have later on.
They're
Yeah,
kind of
Talking about
almost like
Skyrim.
different games in a way,
Skyrim.
though.
Yeah, I think we should just come back to it. We'll do a blue for the maybes, the yellows for the for
Yeah,
sure's, and
that's a good way to go.
Yeah, Josh, Dino, you guys agree with them? Maybe.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of
Yeah.
sold like as a period piece. It's really good. Like, I think it definitely deserves to be in the top 50 for what it was when it released. Um, obviously, if it came out today, everybody would be like, "It's dog shit." But holy shit, that's like I'm really impressed that came out in 2002.
And to me, that was like the PC experience. Like me and you were console gamers for a long time, and then like till
Can I
or someone introduced us to CS, and then
can I
like,
mention something about Elder Scrolls though?
well, here let me finish that
Yeah,
thought.
after you do. Yeah.
Yeah. But like that game is a fantastic example of people who are like console gamers like me and you playing Nintendo, playing Zelda, playing Final Fantasy. And then you would be like, what are these games? You have this like $2,000 computer. What do you play on it? It's like, oh dude, check this out. I play this game where you can do this and go to this giant world and do this and all these mods. And you and me would be like, oh fuck, dude, that's crazy. Yeah, really, really cool. But yeah, what were you gonna say, Chris?
The use of skooma. So in the world of Elder Scrolls, skooma is a drug. It's like a highly addictive drug, sort of like if you combined crack, cocaine, and heroin together.
As one
Um,
does.
as you do, and it's like highly addictive, and the uh the the world um has a lot of like social issues surrounding the drug use, either on playing on entire communities, uh like overuse of the drug, and like drug abuse being a thing within a community, like in a town, or with one of the races having like higher usage of a specific drug. You can also take the drug, and it amps up a bunch of your stats, but then also fucks with other ones. So like there's a sacrifice to be made. Skooma exists in the other games too, not all of them, but some of them. Um, but I feel like it plays a much more prominent role in this one compared to the other ones, right?
So
Y-
it's
I don't know. Chris, do you remember?
I'm sorry, what was that? My cat was fucking meowing like an asshole.
I was talking about skooma. It's like a major
Oh, the
player, like
drug?
it's a big deal in Morrowind. Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
how like they play on drug abuse and drug use being an issue within the world of Morrowind, and
Mhm.
how some like races or some towns like have problems with skooma abuse, and how you can take the drug, but then like it fucks with your stats, and like will actually it will create like a your character will be addicted to the drug, where if you start using it, like you'll need it in order to keep those stats high, and over time you need more unless like you basically detox from it, right?
I believe you're correct.
If I'm remembering it, I
Yeah.
mean, I haven't played Morrowind in like 20 years or whatever, but
I,
if I'm remembering that was a, like a big thing, and Kaji in particular like had issue with skooma use, and like it was
Kaji
it
or
was actually
the
pretty
cats,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
I all this talk about Elder Scrolls really makes me want to pick up the Anniversary Edition on PC.
And never play it.
No, I have the regular one, but the problem with the regular one on PC is the physics are all jacked up. So if your frame rate's high, like and a trap hits you, you like die instantly or whatever. So you can't really play it without like heavily modifying it. But apparently they fixed that in the Anniversary Edition.
Well, here, let's move on. We got this down as a solid maybe. Next game on the list is Arkham City. I know I pimped this one. Josh, were you with me in this one? Who else put this on there?
Yeah, I have it on my list.
Yeah. So Arkham City, I mean, obviously I think it needs to be on there. do you guys want us to do a discussion or just a quick vote, or what do you want to do?
I put Arkham Asylum on my list, but I actually think I meant to put Arkham City on there.
Well, here, let's gush about it. I don't know if we'll have time to talk about Arkham City or if we'll want to later on. So fucking Arkham City, man. For me, like, as everyone in this fucking chat knows, I'm not a big open world person. I'm like about these tightly crafted experiences. Linearity isn't a problem for me because I want to see how polished something is and how like, you know, just how well it can be made.
But would you say that linearity is a virtue?
Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, just like I remember I think Josh, you guys were coming down. You and Berto are gonna come hang out, and like I had pre-ordered a Monster Hunter on PSP, and you guys are gonna come down. We're gonna play that, like we're gonna play it like all day or something like that. You know, link up. And like right before I pre-ordered it, I was like, oh, there's this like Arkham game, like Batman game demo on 360. I'll go play it, and then I turn it on. I'm like, wait, what? And then you know, you go through the combat and like just, you know, like the counters and the hits and like how everything's done. And this is just Arkham City, maybe like one of the most tightly crafted games ever made. And the thing that really blows me away about it is that they did it so well with a full open world where you're flying around with the cave. You know, you're finding things on. You're doing that emergent gameplay.
The nice thing about the open world in Arkham City is that it's actually, and I'm not like trying to shit on it, it's actually kind of small. And because it's kind of small, it allows them to, you know, pack in like the Riddler trophy puzzles. You know, the Riddler trophy puzzles are like the Korok seeds of Arkham City, really. But there's such a variety while not being too many. And yeah, it's just a really tightly crafted open world. Like especially because like if you look at this era, this was the era where, you know, Assassin's Creed 2 and 3 and all these games, they were just trying to make the biggest maps possible. And Rocksteady was just like, we're just going to make a dope open world game our way.
I might be...
Here, let Josh go.
Yep, go for it.
I was just going to say, I think they did something really interesting because, you know, Rockstar's like, hey, how can we make an open world game, but yet still make it feel like you're locked up in a prison? And that's exactly what they did. That's why the open world is a small open world, because you still have to feel like you're locked up, because it was, you know, a prison. They just turned, you know, that entire part of the city into a prison, and that's why I love this game. It's just so perfectly balanced. Like, it's just a complete package of a game.
I'll say that like it's pretty rare for a game to get like a universe or like an established IP that right. But when you look at what they've done with the characters, like, you know, the Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy doing this voice acting, really bringing the characters to life, and just like every
R.I.P.
character, yeah. Every character in this franchise that they introduced, they're done so fucking well. Like, I remember my first time playing Arkham Asylum and like with fucking Scarecrow, and I was just like, I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then you do Killer Croc, and he is fucking terrifying. And so now, you know, we've got the whole on screen. We've got the, what was this thing called again? I know they're the Al Ghouls, but I forget the name of the organization. But
I don't remember.
Yeah.
You're talking about the hand?
Yeah, or it's like the thing with Ra's al Ghul. Like they had like League of Assassins or something like that. Was that
Like
what it was
the Black
League of
Lotus.
Shadows.
League of
At least that's what it was in the movies.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's League of Assassins is what it is.
So
The League of Extraordinary Gentlemanly Assassins.
I mean, it's literally called League of Assassins, at least in the comics.
So I might be the odd person out here, but I honestly, of the trilogy, my favorite game was the first one.
You're not wrong. I mean, like,
I put the first one on mine also, but like, cause that's if you look at the All Boys 2, I think we both have the second one on here too, right?
If we do, then that's something I missed, or either that or it's farther down the line. I didn't think about that. If Dino
I mean, it's on Arkham Asylum's on mine. Dino, do you have Arkham Asylum on yours?
No.
I think it's one of the ones that I didn't either A, didn't think of at the time, or B, like it was just squeezed off. Like honestly,
Yeah.
if you
It's not
want
on your
right
list.
now, I'll retcon my list and say, Oregon Trail can go. I'd actually rather have Arkham Asylum. But I was kind of being cheeky when I put that one on there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like, and that's the thing, both games are fucking phenomenal, and it really just
Yeah.
comes down to like which characters, which setting did you like more? Did you like the giant open setting, being able to do all this, or did you like, like going through an insane asylum and dealing with Scarecrow? And
For
either
me,
answer
I
is wrong.
thought that the design. So like, in many ways, the second game like just took a lot of the stuff from the first game and just did it better. Like it just
Mhm.
Yep.
did. The
Proof of
thing I will
concept,
say
the
that I
perfect.
like, the thing that I liked about the first game was um the art style's a little different. It's very um it reminds me of Batman the Animated Series a little bit, but combined with this sort of almost like, I wouldn't say steampunk, but it's got this like um the the um the technology. It's almost like a Art Deco kind of
Yeah,
like the animated series,
almost like a
but
Tim
a little
Burton-esque kind of
steampunky.
thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then like in Arkham City, they just kind of just disappeared, and it was more like kind of here's generic city, because they're trying to fill out a world. And so you lose a little bit of that like artistic flair from the first one when you expand the world. That's the only thing that I think like
That's
the first
crazy
one
because I'm
does a
like
better
looking at the
job
screen
at.
right now. I'm like, this seems pretty artistic. I don't know.
Yeah,
No, it
I
is. It
disagree.
is, but like it's like a distinct style difference is what it
I
is.
get where you're coming from for
I
sure, but I think just from every aspect, whether it's combat, because one of the biggest issues that I had with Asylum is
Combat, the second one is a better game.
yeah, there's more moves. It's more flexible. The skill tree feels like
More
it means
freedom how you want to
something.
play. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also the first game it repeated bosses. The
Oh
Scarecrow thing
yeah.
happens like 4 times, whereas like Arkham City, like everything, it throws you crazy shit like every couple hours, like nonstop, just boom, boom. Like I mean, just look what we're looking at right here. It's like you have some cool ass crazy shit. If you're playing the main story, like obviously you get lost doing the various side stuff, but I mean, just look at how like the seamless transition there. It's like the more advanced version of what they did with the Scarecrow encounters. And also, I thought the sewers kind of sucked in the first game with Killer Croc, to be honest.
Yeah, and you know what? You bring up a good point. I remember now, like the big thing about the one flaw that really was about Arkham Asylum was that like every fucking boss was like, he's gonna charge at you, throw the boomerang and jump. That
Exactly.
was like you did that fight like 10 times.
Yeah, and that I mean that's where I'm saying like I think in some ways I'm okay with Arkham Asylum. I'm okay with Arkham City being rated higher than Arkham Asylum, just because although I enjoy the sort of stylistic choices from the first one better than the second one, um, the actual gameplay is so good in the second one, and there's so many different cool options on how to approach, infiltrating a base like Penguin's hideout. Infiltrating that was so much fun. Like deciding how you wanted to get in and then deciding how you wanted to kill all those guys or beat all those guys inside. Did you want to like come out blasting or stealth your way through the whole game? Like you
Yeah.
really had a lot of options. I don't know about you guys, but like whenever I'm given the option, I do everything I can to play the game complete stealth mode. I find it to be really challenging and fun, and this game in particular is really cool about that. You have even more options to that. Arkham
Yep.
Asylum, I felt like it sort of almost made you do it, and I don't like doing it when I'm made to do it. I like doing it when I don't have to.
So that it's funny you say that because that was like the exact thing that I wanted to touch on was like, okay, in Arkham City, like if you want to go stealth and shit goes bad, you can just like fly away or something. I actually liked that in Arkham Asylum, like when you entered a room, like that room was like a puzzle and you had to figure it out.
Yep.
But if you like fucked up, you got shot and you died. And like there
You
was no
you
like
could
flying
You could
away.
grapple to the gargoyles. You
You
just had
could,
to.
okay, yeah, you could, but
Pop a
like
snuff
if
bomb.
they, but they, if they had guns and they shot you, like you almost a lot of times you were dead, but it was more of like a
Oh, Mad Hatter.
puzzle, and they kind of forced you to do that puzzle to like progress in the game.
Yeah, and I mean that just shows like how good that game is, because it's like not only did they do these, they took the Batman IP. I'm convinced that like they took this game that was supposed to just be a random tie-in, and they ended up making a fucking blockbuster. But they
100%.
they
I mean,
took
both games are good.
yeah, but I mean they took this game, completely new formula, new direction, and then like not only did they make the combat just one of the most satisfying combat sequences in any video game ever, and especially when you think about you've got like 12, 14 guys surrounding you, and whenever you fuck up the combo or get hit, it's all on you. I am the person, I will cry bullshit like in a heartbeat if I feel like
Yes,
I
you
got
will.
screwed by the game. Yes, I fucking will. I don't get that way with this game because they give you all the camera angles. There's no bullshit. You know exactly what's coming. You have all the information. If you fuck up, it's your fault. And then doing
So
this beautiful combat, and then the stealth part just executed so well. It's like
where do you guys
these
want
guys couldn't miss.
Yeah, so I would say to keep things on track, are we going a definite
let's all
yes for
vote
Arkham
for
City?
it. Yes, or maybe.
It's a yes
Me
for
and
me.
Josh are gonna vote yes.
I liked it enough to say yes. Like if I had to choose between Asylum or City, I would choose Asylum, but I'm fine with City.
Is there anybody here that thinks it does not belong on the list? Let's do that. I want to hear that.
It never gets old, guys.
Is that a no likey?
It's funnier every time.
I think this is one of those things where he's gonna be agnostic on. All right. All right, add it only then. All right, that's gonna piss me off. All right. Next game up, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Man, do we have to talk about this? You know, it's, um,
I don't
I'll
think
say my piece first because I'm probably I like the game a lot. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of tightly knit fighting experiences, but that's also part of the charm of MVC2 is how ridiculous and unbalanced it can be, I guess. I'm not going to be a strong no because I still like the game a lot, but I would guess I'm probably the person here that likes it the least.
I'm actually with you on this one. I could talk a lot of shit about this game, even though I like it a lot. It's like something you like that you hate at the same time for certain reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is a game that came out what, like 2000 or something like that, and like people still demand to play it at Evo in 2023. They're like, I was literally watching. Oh, this window was actually the like top 8 at some like random tournament for MVC2.
I will say it didn't make my list. I don't think, did it?
I think this is me and Justin that have this on there.
My problem with the game is that like the pros are, when I say pros, I mean like pros and cons. Like the pros are very prominent, but there are also a lot of cons weighing it down.
See, I think if you look at it at like a term of like, you're trying to say like, is it a balanced, well-crafted, perfect game? No, God, no. It is not even close to the balance.
Well,
but
the question is well crafted distinguished from balanced? Because a game doesn't have to be balanced to be well crafted.
Yeah, because
I
the video.
I don't know if this video is the best one.
It didn't make my list. But like I don't know. So Dino, the way I did my list is I just put games down. My list had like 100 games on it, and then I ran the entire thing through that aggregator. I had like 400 something choices, and I had games that I thought for sure were going to make my list, and they didn't. And this is one of those ones that like I thought was going to make it, and then when it didn't make my 50, I was like, oh no, I get it. For me, like I'm not that great at fighting games. I know I'm not, unless it's Smash Melee for Cube,
Mhm.
and then your ass is mine. But like for the other ones, it's like not my thing. Like they're fun for me, and I'll play them, but I'm not super great at them. But I appreciate like what it is, and the nuance of all the different characters, and that some characters are cheaper than others, and so like you're gonna have S rank teams and B rank teams, and you're kind of screwed if you're playing with a B rank team. I get that, and that means there's balance problems. So in Dino's defense, like he's kind of right there. That there's some major problems in that. Basically, if you want to play this at a competitive level, you have to pick the same characters. Like you just
Right,
do,
and I'm not. No one's
right?
arguing with it.
Yeah. So, but I would say that like if you look at it outside of that, the animation of the game is really good. All of the different Marvel characters that they chose and Capcom characters that they chose are pretty good choices. You got some kind of deep cuts in there, that I think are good choices. That like Strider, like what a kind of Capcom deep cut that guy is, right? Um, but
Yeah, Captain Commando, stuff like
Chris,
that.
would you
yeah.
are you a no or a maybe for the list
I,
at this
I
moment?
I could I'm like a tentative yes, like in that it doesn't make my personal list, but I get why it deserves to be on.
What about you, Dino?
I would say yes, as long as it doesn't bump off something like Super Street Fighter 2.
That
Because I will
Well, it's
argue
that's
never
all
not
gonna do that.
happening because it's
No.
already on.
yeah, because I will argue all day until I die that that is like the most purest fighting game.
What about
Like everything else needs to compare to Super Street Fighter 2.
What about Primal Rage, you guys?
Primal Rage.
that game fucking rules, dude. I love it.
Does.
It's
I
so
was
good.
thinking later. I was so mad I didn't put it on my list.
What about Justin Josh, MVC2, general feelings?
It's on Justin's list, so
Yeah, it's on my list. I think that it holds up super well, regardless of whether you're like super sweaty or not.
yep.
And like even in some like tournaments, like
Like this is you're watching a sponsored low tier tournament right now. Like this shit happens.
Did Low Tier God play in this?
No, we don't talk about. Oh man, but yeah, I mean, like, yeah,
it's a
at
good
this,
game.
yeah, at this point,
It deserves to be on there.
I mean, this game has a crazy ass legacy, and I think Chris is on the right track of like, yeah, should it be on here? Should it not be on here? Let's do a vote. But just keep in mind that like every time we do say this, and he goes like, yeah, I recognize the importance of this. We're gonna do this another 30, 40 times,
Right,
least.
and we may
So,
end up
like,
with more than 50. Like we're going to go through this. We may end up with more than 50, and then we can whittle it down further. It's not like it's the end of the world. I'm fine with saying. I'm fine with saying yes.
So let's get other Chris, Dino, Josh. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I said my piece. I would say yes. Like, despite the flaws it has, it's still an incredibly fun and impactful game.
I would say a maybe, but I'm a believer in the democratic process.
Josh,
Okay
what
with
do you
it.
think?
Yeah, I mean, as long as Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo is somewhere on that list, I'm okay with
It's locked
MVC2
in
being in
already.
there too.
It's
Yeah,
gonna
I
be
know.
above this game.
Yeah, I saw that. So yeah, no, I'm cool with it.
All right.
The next game does not deserve to even be asked, I don't think. And the fact that only 2 people put it on there, I'm shocked.
Resident Evil 4.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. I'm all over this list. Jesus Christ.
I'm gonna make my case for this game deserving to be on this list. I mean, this game is
Objectors, I guess, is the question.
So here, I'm gonna inject some fucking chaos right now with this.
Wait, real quick. Which version of Resident Evil 4 are we gonna be talking about?
Exactly.
so.
They are 2 different games.
Are they really? God
Yes,
damn it!
they
I don't
are.
want to
They're
do this shit
100%. Not even
definitely doing this.
I'm not gonna play the remake.
Yeah, Resident Evil 4 OG, 100% yes for me.
Yeah, and that's So that's the thing for me. So I'm kind of like I'm thinking like how Dino's thinking, like where he's like, I don't want to have like 50 games of the same franchise. So like, the thing about it is that I love Resident Evil 4. I played the shit out of it, and I've talked about it before. But Resident Evil 4 remake is fucking better in every single aspect. And I would say remake
Instead of
over this.
arguing for Resident Evil 4 remake right now, I think what we
Yeah.
should do is: does anyone else object to Resident Evil 4 OG being on the list other than Craig?
I haven't played it.
I could go all day why I like Resident Evil 4 has been a problem for me over the years, and I'm not going to take up all the time doing that. But I would just say that I would, if we're gonna put a Resident Evil 4 on there, put the new one on, and I'll just leave it at that.
But like, okay, so for somebody, so like, you know, at least say maybe like a little bit for somebody who hasn't played it before, like what is so special about this game?
You know, like when you have something,
You're gonna be
and
the one to talk about it.
you enjoy it, and then it tries to appeal to a wider audience, and then it loses what it originally was. That's the case with Resident Evil 4, and that's why I've always had a problem with it.
That's his idea.
I'm a huge fan of the original, like, style of Resident Evil.
It's like a Green Day fan saying that they don't like Dookie because American Idiot came afterwards.
And that's okay. I'm like a Resident Evil hipster. I'm just a huge fan of 1, 2, 3, the remake, the original remake. All those like Code Veronica, less so Code Veronica, but like. But anyway, those are some of my favorite games of all time. And so when they came and they changed fundamentally what Resident Evil was, and they took out a lot of like the puzzles and the jump scares, and they made it more of like an action game, like it kind of lost its identity a little bit to me.
Yeah, so the backstory behind that is Resident Evil Remake and the GameCube came out and had surprisingly bad sales. And so Capcom then pushed for this change. And I think we've talked about it before, and that's why there's like 2 versions of Resident Evil 4. Like,
well, there's actually like Resident Evil 4 has one of the weirdest development stories ever. Devil May Cry was originally Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
And then there was 2 different versions of Resident Evil 4 for N64 that got scrapped, or N64 for GameCube that got scrapped and replaced with this, basically.
Yeah, but I mean, going back to what Justin's asking, right? He's like, so what am I looking at here? Why is this, why does this deserve to be on here? And it's like, I think this game, it was one of those things. It's just another perfectly crafted, perfectly tuned game.
It's also the most influential game of that time. You have people like Cliff Bleszinski, director of Gears of War, that said that this game directly influenced Gears of War. And then Gears of War directly influenced pretty much every fucking game in the Xbox 360, PS3 generation. This is kind of like the Super Mario Bros. 1 of third-person shooters. There were platformers before Super Mario Bros. 1, but Super Mario Bros. 1 nailed it. And this is what Resident Evil 4. I love the horror aspects of the OG games, and Resident Evil 4 is not scary at all.
Not at all.
So,
go ahead.
One thing, so I don't look like an asshole, I'm gonna say it's a great game. I just, as a Resident Evil fan, I was just pissed off a little bit. That's all.
No, that's fair. Because it is a completely different game in every single way. Because the only other Resident Evil game mainline in the series that had even had full 3D backgrounds was Code Veronica, and it still had fixed backgrounds, fixed camera angles for the most part. But yeah, I mean, it was such an influential game. Resident Evil 4 OG, just incredibly balanced front to back. It's always giving you new challenges. It did so many different things, and it did them really well. Where most shooters at that time could barely do 1 or 2 things really well. But yeah, I mean, I get it if people if I'm the big defender, but I mean, I think it deserves it. But
No,
if
I
not,
mean, like, this
I get
game
it.
is in my top 50, right? Well, my issue with it is that it's just like, if I'm gonna put Resident Evil 4 in here, I want it to be the I don't want to put the OG in here too, because yeah, like, I don't know, it's this game at the time of its release was just incredible, did everything perfectly.
Well, and I think
Like,
that
no one
brings-
saw it coming. Like, it was just it's you just have to get your hands on it. And this is just like how I saw it. Like, I went to EB Games or whatever it was, and I was like, "Oh, is this that Resident Evil game? That's not the scary one." I was like, "Dino, like, I don't care." But then they had it play at the kiosk, so I just pick up the little controller and I'm like, "This, it feels so good. Like, it is so fucking fun." And it's what you're seeing now. It's not doing anything different by modern standards. Like, it's not. This isn't something I could tell Justin to go pick up and play, and he'll be like, "Oh my god, this I totally get it." You know, you might have a good time, but I think I don't know. It's a phenomenal game, but I just rather have the one in there, just for like the new one being a literal fucking perfect game.
So would anybody ever play this? Like, how about anybody here? Would anybody here ever play this over the remake?
Yes, me.
Okay.
I've never played the
it-
remake. I'm perfect. If the remake didn't exist, I'd be fine that it didn't exist.
It's not a question of like would you play this one or that one. It's like, I want to play this game. I want to play the other game. Like, they're different enough. Like, you know, that I would be like, yeah, I'll go back and play this one. But as far as putting it on the list, no, I'd rather have Resident Evil 4 remake or nothing at all.
Yeah, I will say that I will go against Resident Evil 4 remake being on the list harder than I will go for this game being on the list.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my vote, and Resident Evil 4 is one of the two people. I'd put a maybe.
I'm cool with that. We'll do a maybe.
That's the vibe I'm getting from the room for sure.
I mean, are you saying this would be a maybe and put the remake higher? Is that what you're?
I'm
essentially
saying
arguing for?
at some point in time, I will make a impassioned argument for Resident Evil 4
Speech.
remake.
The
Yeah,
fact that Sadler
and I
doesn't
will
look
do
like
that.
Sadler, I will see.
And so at
Okay.
that point, if I'm able to get within the hearts and minds and people, and you know, we talk, all right, let's throw a Resident Evil 4 remake on there. Cool. Yeah, I don't want Resident Evil 4 on there at all. You know, on there. However, if enough people think that Resident Evil 4 itself should just be on there, no one cares about the remake. Fine, it's a phenomenal game. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say we go maybe for OGRE4, and then when we get to remake, we'll discuss that.
You good, Chris?
Yeah, I can put it maybe, and then we can argue about it. That's fine.
All right.
Good.
How y'all doing?
I want to talk about CS:GO.
We can skip down one. You want to talk about CS:GO?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Talk about CS:GO. I don't play this game.
All right.
I know what it's about.
I'll just lay it out there. Like, you know, I was like saying how Street Fighter 2 is like the most, or Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo is like the most pure fighting game. That's like the case of CS:GO. Like, CS:GO has been around, or Counter Strike in general has been around for like almost a quarter century.
I have to say, I made the mistake. I put it on my list, right? Or no, I didn't put it on my list.
It's a big mistake.
Oh, that's a
Did I?
big mistake. But so it's been around for a quarter century. It's a cornerstone of competitive gaming. Like, you see a lot of other games come and go in the competitive scene. Counter Strike has been a mainstay like forever. I mean, they're even coming out with an update to CS:GO. Like, I believe it's this year.
CS2, right?
It's like CS:GO 2 basically, and it's for Source 2. That's what the upgrade is. They're putting on the new engine, but it's just pure, and everyone tries to be it. It's fundamentally, it is just an incredibly well-made game.
Yeah, you know, and it's funny. There's like games like, you know, of this era, like, you know, like the Half-Life era and stuff like that, Unreal and stuff, like, where it's just like they knew what made their engine work and what made it feel good to press the buttons, and they did it, and they're like, okay, never touching it again. It's fucking perfect. Let's just throw other shit on there.
Well, what's dope about it is that the original CS wasn't even, it was just a fucking mod. And Valve
Yeah, it
just
was a
ended up
Half-Life mod.
hiring them. They're like, hey, you guys are dope as fuck. Come work for us. So, I mean,
The opposite of Dota.
yeah, pretty much. Good times. But anyways, I played Go on 360. I never got to Go on PC. And then I played tons of 1.6. And I agree with Dino in terms of tactical shooters. It's just distilled into its purest form, where it comes down to knowledge of the map, quick reflexes, critical thinking, problem solving, teamwork, and it encompasses it in like really short matches. So yeah, it's definitely a yes for me. I prefer 1.6 just because it was the OG that really got me into it. But Go is just it basically plays the same with better graphics and new shit. So
Dino, how do you feel about this game versus 1.6?
I mean, I loved 1.6, but I think it's just further distilled. Like they took everything they learned from back then and continued like iterating on it and just kept making it better and better. It's like it is the best shooter I've ever played.
So it's not just like a reskin. There's actually like there's like changes and stuff.
I mean, yeah, they added like the Call of Duty, like aim down the sights. They they added a lot of different things like that, and they're always like doing little tweaks, map updates. Like I mean, Dust 2 has been constantly getting map updates over the years just to keep adding balance changes and making it more and more perfect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it'll be like, oh, this person you can run with a knife, crouch jump, and get onto this like one single polygon. It's just always that cat and mouse where they patch that out. They're like, oh, okay, we'll get that exploit out there. We'll add an extra box right here.
Does CS:GO have like the same kind of like custom map scene that 1.6 had?
It does, yeah. There's like all sorts of like there's like aim type maps and
Do they have FY Ice World?
Stuff like it. I don't know. I'll be honest. I didn't really get as into it on this one because I loved the competitive mode. The only negative, if I had to say one, is that there's been a lot of hackers over the years, and Valve's just never been really good about keeping them off of Go, and that's
no
actually
game is, dude.
Yeah, that's what drove me away from it. It just has a really big hacking problem.
Yeah, and I mean that's all games. Like people want to hate on specific companies, but it's like play WoW and Dead by Daylight, and Overwatch. There's hackers everywhere in every fucking game. But I would agree if you'd say like it's worse in CS because it's such a more competitive, like more serious game than like monkey jumping around with electric fucking electric tank gun.
When the new version drops, I gotta check. I think it's in beta right now. When it drops, like I'm definitely getting back into it.
I'll play with you.
Yes.
Do we have any detractors for CS:GO being a yes?
It's on my list, so.
I mean, I'm fine with it being a maybe, I guess. I don't. It's like not really. It's not a genre for me, so that makes it hard.
Easy layup for me. Like this game is incredible. It has a legacy. Yeah, it should definitely be on the list. It's a good
I
representation.
mean, so you say a legacy, but it came out in 2021.
CS:GO.
The original came out in 2021. The current version that people play it came out in 2012. But CS:GO is essentially like a newer update. It's just always continued, and they're like, "This is the new version," and they
So
just
it's just updates of the 2012 game then.
I would say
they're on the 2012 game right now, like that version. Like I would consider that, like if you're talking about like let's take it like software and like semantic versioning. Like let's say that okay, CS1, like you know, it was like went up to like 1.6, and then like CS2 was like CS Source, and then CS:GO is like CS 3.0. Like
I would say the easiest way to, it's not a direct comparison, but CS:GO as is, like the current version of it, it's kind of like Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, man. To me, like Counter-Strike is Counter-Strike, and like whether you talk about 1.6 or Go, it's the same thing. It's like this was the Counter-Strike of the early 2000s. This is the Counter-Strike of the 2010s to 2020s. This is the Counter-Strike. Like
Exactly. It's like
to
playing...
me, it's like I'm putting Counter-Strike on there. I'm not putting CS:GO or 1.6 on there. I'm putting Counter-Strike on this list. It's an incredible fucking game, and just like Dino said in the beginning, every game, like every competitive shooter, tries to be CS. And it's like
It
the only
sounds
one that
like
even comes
consensus
close
is
is
to
like
put it on there, so I'm fine to put it on there. If I mean, you're basically saying it's a continuation of the 2012 game, so like I'm fine with that then.
Yeah, and then 2012 is basically a continuation of OG.
Yeah, like for me, OG is fine. Like I'm 100% on board for that. I played that. I think that one is.
Oh, a good analogy is like World of Warcraft original, and then what like retail is now, and it's like just continued like throwing expansions on top. You know, like originally it was that old school CS, but they just kept adding stuff to it or changing stuff around.
I mean, not really though, right? Like DDoS 2 has changed like a little bit since 1.6, but it's like largely the same map, and like all the guns are the same for the most part too.
Yeah, that's why I say it's kind of more like Smash Ultimate, where some of the, Smash Ultimate has all the maps, but mechanically it's slightly different from maybe Smash Brawl or Smash Melee, but it's essentially you could be a Smash Melee player and jump into Ultimate and be like, oh, okay. So it's like, it's not the same game, but it's
well, here,
the same game.
I think what we need to just figure out right now is does it go on the list or not? And then, it's one thing again we got to keep in mind is that like, so this would be spot number 30. Got another 40 games to talk about. And so if you're not 100% sure, just say maybe, like, so, I mean, we haven't heard, I don't know if Josh even has an opinion on the game at all.
Absolutely, yeah.
There you go. No, I think it deserves to be on the list for what it is alone. Yeah.
All right. So that's a yes from everybody then, except for Chris G would be like a maybe.
Yeah, and I believe in the democratic process as well. So
The democratic.
you can put it on there.
Counter-Strike Go. All right. Do you guys want to like? I mean, I don't have to worry about going top to bottom. Like, do whatever if we want to. Like, someone else wants to talk about a specific game. You're kind of.
I think it's better if we go top to bottom because then it keeps it organized.
Okay. Sure.
Hop back to Star Fox 64. Any objectors?
Me. Actually, I don't think it should be on the list.
Yeah, I'm a huge, massive Star Fox 64 fan. But I'm completely fine with it not being on the 50.
Yeah, this is one of my games, and I actually agree. It is a fantastic fucking game. It's probably top 3 N64 games for me. But as cool as it is, there is just so many other games with just like that have bigger implications, bigger impacts, and stuff that I want to make sure that's on the list. And I know for a fact that this doesn't hang up there with it.
Like, so I put it on my list too, and for me, like, I know I'm gonna get outvoted here, but I feel like it's one of those games that should have had a bigger impact, but didn't, and I for the life of me I can't figure out why.
I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because fucking Nintendo refuses to make sequels.
Well, here's the thing though, they did make sequels, but they were shitty.
They never really, yeah. That's
they made the
Wii.
They were bad
sequels. But they weren't like this.
They were
right?
bad sequels. They
weren't
this.
sequels. Star Fox Crystal Chronicle Adventures, whatever the fuck. That's not this game. Like, it's a different game.
It's a continuation.
Weird.
No, there was a Star Fox shooter game that.
Yeah, there's Star Fox Assault for GameCube.
Yeah,
it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah.
What's the one I had? What's the one on Wii U called? That's the one I was thinking.
Remember Dinosaur Planet?
Yeah, it does.
No, I'm gonna say this is the only Star Fox game I actually like.
Yeah.
It's the
feel
best game in
like
the series.
That's
Yeah.
I agree
the
with you.
thing for me is that like for what it is, it's a shooter combat, like kind of on rails game, and it does it so well and so flawlessly.
Yeah, for me, I was like entranced by like when I was a kid. Just I don't know. I remember it was coming out. Nintendo sent that VHS out. The fucking goofy, like like
Beat up
torturing
B-52s.
the doll
Mhm.
Mario, and it was just so funny.
Um,
And I watched it every day because like shit like this, where it's like I wonder if this is Star Wolf. Yeah, Star Wolf comes down, and you're seeing all like the dialogue, the interplay, and they're like talking to each other, and it's just it added so much to the game. I think this game would be like fucking like way less good if it didn't have the spoken dialogue. Because like you get the back
I
and you're thinking you get the back and forth, and
some of it
it adds
is
so much
cheesy.
intensity to it.
This one particular fight here, I think it does add a lot to it. The thing for me that I like this game, the reason why I like this game so much, the reason why it's on my list, besides the fact that I played an ungodly number of hours, like you know, of this game when it came out, is the fact that um, the combat is so tight. It like mistakes are yours. They're not from the game being cheap. Um, and the game is made for you to succeed. Like it's built for you to succeed, and if you failed, you failed. Um, and the fact that there is multiplayer and the multiplayer is really good. It's basically like
That's a big disagree.
I
Yeah, I
love the
disagree
multiplayer
as
for this.
well.
Did you play a lot of multiplayer for this or no?
No, no one wanted to play it.
Oh, I
Here's
played a ton of multiplayer with my friends.
here's one thing
We'd
that's
be
really
like, hey,
cool
why
about,
aren't we playing Goldeneye right now?
yeah, I'll say one thing that is cool about the multiplayer is that this is one of the games that I 100%ed. I got golden,
Same.
fucking medals on every and then
Sunglasses.
yep, exactly. And once you do that, you can actually unlock an on-foot mode in multiplayer. So you can have one person that's in the landmaster, one person that's in R-wing, people on foot with cannons on their shoulders. So that's cool, but like in terms of an actual multiplayer experience, it was one of those things where I played it like 4 or 5 times with some friends, and that was it. It was cool, but yeah.
I think there were a few misses that they like. I think okay, so this is a great game and I love it. It just kind of pisses me off though because they should have came out with like another one where there was like a co-op mode. They should have came out with like a multiplayer that had more interesting types of modes in it. Where like, what if there was a mode where everybody had to go after like one plane, and you were like and the goal was to stay alive as long as you could or something.
What if it had
Like
co-op?
like as I said, co-op. And so
Yeah.
like if they would have added more to it, or even to this one, it could have been like GOAT status. But there was stuff that I wish was in the game or in a sequel that like never happened.
Yep.
I mean, all that is stuff
agree
that I
100%
don't
with
think they
that.
could have done at the time, but I think when sequels, yeah, should have existed. They just Nintendo's absolutely retarded with how they handled some of their franchises. This is one, F-Zero's another. Like, why did they screw over both of those franchises so bad? I don't know. Um, I feel like this game is at least like I'm fine with this game not being on the list. I just want to make a treatise for like the general public or our friends or our future selves. Like this game deserves a replay.
This game
Um,
fucking rules.
it's so good. And there's branching pathways, multiple ways to beat each level, you know, um, collection related stuff like can you get all 3 rings? Or can you get a score above a certain number that allows you other things? Like there's options for you to have quote replayability if you want.
That virtue,
Um,
yes.
yeah, that are not like where they're trying to force you to replay it. It's more like, hey, I want to try and accomplish this thing now.
Yeah. And this was a great example of a game that was like only possible in the 64. It's like you couldn't do this on the PS1. I remember like one
Not
time
even
me and my
close.
brother
Yeah.
I remember one time me and my brother traded consoles because he had the PlayStation. I had 64, and it's like I missed this game, so I told my mom, "Hey, call Corey. We got to switch right now. Like, I need Star Fox back, man." But yeah, incredible game. But with that said, yeah, like
I'm fine with it not making the list at
yeah,
that point. Yeah,
It's something that Nintendo's dropped the
this one
ball on.
hurts really bad to not put on the list for me. That one in particular, I have like a lot of emotional tie for on that one.
But makes sense not to. Does anyone else want to say anything about it?
Great game.
We're talking about Persona 5 next though, right?
We sure are, buddy. We sure are. God, I'm like in all of these games. No, I wasn't in CS.
I have not played Persona 5. To be honest, I've never played a Persona 5. I've never played a
talk
Persona
about Persona
game.
5.
Me?
Yeah,
It's so good.
that's it. Putting it on the list.
It's like the story is like high school kids or whatever, right?
That's the Persona theme, right? So Shin Megami Tensei is the name of like the RPG series from the developer in Atlas. The Persona sub series, it's not related at all. None of the games are related at all, but they're always about teenagers. Like you always play a teenage high school and stuff like that. And then the stories within them, this is going to be a terrible one. But the stories that you do as teenagers, all those are different. But a lot of the themes are the same. Like I'll let Justin talk about it.
Sure. I mean, okay, just looking at like all of these menus and like the transitions between scenes, it just has so much like style to it.
You get the all-out attack. Ooh, this shit right here. Oh, so much style.
And like the soundtrack is just incredible. The gameplay is just, it's like a turn-based RPG slash like pick who you want to spend time with and like build relationships with your like high school buddies, and they cross over into each other. So so it's not like you're just like reading dialogue that you don't care about. Like they make these characters like, really likable, and you like want to learn their backstories and stuff like that. But in addition to that, you get bonuses in the turn-based RPG based on who you try to spend your time with. And it's like, so it's got like a little bit of that. So like when it's not like never gets too grindy, because you grind for a little bit, and then the game, the turn-based part of it kind of pauses, and then you get to like run around and play this like kind of time management, like more social game. And then on top of that, it's also got like a third kind of like aspect to the game where you have the character that you play as like kind of evolves over time, and you can there's kind of like evolution trees almost that you can like go down and pick like which, instead of having like one character that you kind of like improve over time, and then by the end of the game you are just like kind of good at everything. You like pick like better and better. That's like where the persona comes from, like different personas, and that like evolution aspect of like, you can pick like a defensively made character, or you can pick like, something with elements, something that's more physical, like, and all of that stuff. I don't know. I prefer that over turn-based RPGs where you like towards the end you're just sort of like good at everything. But yeah, it's just like full of style, and also just like a really well done game with like great pacing, and also just like kind of a pretty deep turn-based RPG.
Yeah, the Persona system is like the main trick of the combat. Or of the game for combat. Like you go through the dungeons, you fight enemies, but you can like coerce the enemies into like joining your side and stuff like that.
Did anybody play this that did not enjoy the game? Who's here?
I think Chris Rivera's playing like he got sidetracked. You want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, the one objection that I would have that Justin spoke. Hold on a sec, my cat's meowing at the garage door. Let me let this bastard in real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like, for this game, if the idea is that it makes the list when it's just me
All
and
right, I'm back.
Justin who are fans of it, I think we put it on the fact that it is like it. We would think it's a incredible modern day turn-based JRPG. Like it is like the gold standard for
So
like traditional art JRPGs going forward.
I've never touched it. I'm very unfamiliar with Persona in general. Um, I'll say that for me, just like watching the scenes, hearing about the like time management, social stuff, um, thematically, it doesn't interest me. The art style is like I'm looking at it, it's like not for me, and the um like socialization stuff. Like I want to talk if it's socialized stuff, I want I want to talk to real people, or I'm just like trying
Yeah,
to do stuff to get items, right?
yeah. So I'll kind of speak to my brief experience with the game. I think I put about a little bit more than 15 hours or so. I got to the second palace. Uh, I would say the main issue that I had with it so far, and like, I don't want to like shit all over it because this is a 100+ hour game. So, if you're talking about playing 15, 20 hours, I probably played 10, 15% of the game, give or take, right? Um, in terms of pacing, that was a lot of people said that the beginning is the worst part in terms of that. That was something that was really getting on my nerves because it was just too handholdy. It was one of those games where the first like 10 hours it's like take 2 steps and then here's a cutscene of someone like explaining something to you.
That's-
Yeah, I would hate
that's-
that. Yeah.
That's always been my biggest problem with the Persona series is it takes way too long to get started and the pacing is just really bad.
Yeah, because the thing here is that when the game lets me really play it, I really enjoyed it. One thing I will say is that soundtrack, incredible fucking soundtrack. I was walking around like a week after having played the game last, and I just had the do do
Yeah.
do 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 do. Like I just had that in my head, like walking around doing my chores. It's like, what
You
the
know what
fuck
you're
is
gonna
going on here? Boo boo boo.
No, you gotta do the battle shot layer cake, dude.
This guy, dude. This guy's hilarious. But anyways,
Just listen to this. Can you guys hear that?
no.
A little bit.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can hear
Yeah, I
it.
can hear it.
But just wait, like it's gonna go through a couple phases, but this is just like music you get for going to buy weapons in the shop. And it's like this level of detail for just such a silly thing is crazy to me.
I mean, I like the music. I mean, the music is cool. I have a musical background. That was originally like what I was gonna do for a living. So like, I'm all about this. This music is, it's right up my alley. This
Yeah,
sort
it's
of
a ton
it's
of
sort
like
of like
funky bass.
yeah, it's like a jazz, it's like a jazz funk, like amalgamated sort of style. Like I like it. It's cool.
Hold on, we're not even at the good part yet. See, like you would go to the shop and then just set the controller down so you could hear this.
So for people that haven't played the game, so when you go into these palaces and whatnot, you kind of go into an alternate reality where you fight these demons and whatnot. And this guy, he actually sells airsoft guns, but when you're in the Persona world, they work as real guns. And there's this whole side story about him getting hassled at his shop and all this stuff. But yeah, I don't want to shit all over the game because there's things I like about it. I figure I'll probably eventually go back to it. It just didn't really super connect with me personally.
But yeah, like the soundtrack is ridiculous. That I don't know. Well, that's enough. But yeah, like, oh, Justin, go ahead.
That was me.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think
Oh.
the thing about modern JRPGs, it's like it's kind of like liking seafood. It's some people really loves it's polarizing, right? Like some
Yeah,
people really love
you love
seafood, and
it.
some people I'm just not huge on modern JRPGs. I liked them back in the day, but
I'm with you.
the modern ones are just not my thing anymore.
See,
Other
I
than
like.
the next game on our list.
Well, so the thing about Persona that does it for me is that like, so I'm like with you, like Bravely Default and stuff. Like I don't dig it, but the style and the craftsmanship behind Persona 5 is so ridiculously on point that yeah, like it's undeniable. Like what Chris is saying, like yeah, the very beginning of the game it throws so many people off because they give you a taste of it. You go run around a dungeon, you get into one battle, like, all right, you're out of here. Time for another hour of dialogue. And that's like your first 10, 15 hours of the game, and it kind of blows. But after that, that's when you're exploring the town. You got all these people you got to talk to deepen your relationship. What kind of bonuses am I going to get? Who do I prioritize hanging out with? Like, do I have time for all this, or when do I go train? Like, like it's just an incredible game. If it goes on our list, it's because it is just a top quality JRPG with just one of the best like modern soundtracks of a video game. Maybe it does have the best modern soundtrack of a video game, honestly. But yeah. So for me and Justin, obviously it's going to be a yes. But yeah, it's I leave it up to
Does anybody feel
the
strongly
court.
about it otherwise, like as a no?
I don't know.
mean,
I never beat the game. I played it, but I only put like a couple of hours into it, so I don't really have an opinion on it. Um, it looks cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, do you think you would even want to say like maybe though? Because if you've got like other games on here and other things on there, like, if you don't feel super
I'm
strongly about it, I think that's a no.
I'm fine with putting it as a maybe. I've never played it. It feels like, especially for an RPG, it's hard to say without having touched it. But um like it's a maybe because I can tell you guys are really passionate about it. But it's also a maybe and not a yes because stylistically it's not the thing for me.
That's like the first time I've ever heard anyone say that about Persona. That's crazy.
I don't personally enjoy modern settings all that much.
yeah, I mean, it is kind of niche, right? So it's a modern Japan setting, and then there is this very heavy social simulator aspect where you're building up levels of friendship between different characters. So it's kind of like a niche of a niche.
I think for me, if I'm going to play an RPG where I'm role playing and trying to I mean, role playing's about, escaping reality for 40, 50, 60, 80 hours, however long it takes to beat the game. And for me, like I I want to escape that reality and go be someplace else and not in the modern world. So I like science fiction and I like
Well, it's
fantasy,
funny.
but modern day is like not really my thing as much.
I mean, it's funny you say that because that's one of the hallmarks of Persona, right?
I get
You
that. So
play
I'm
as
saying
the
it may not
student,
be
and
me.
then
It
like
may
all the
not be for
crazy
me.
shit happens in temples and outer space and crazy like sex dungeons and shit. Like,
I would say that I think that this should go down as a maybe for now because
Yeah.
Craig and Justin are both very passionate about it.
That's what I'm saying.
And
We'll put it as a maybe.
yeah, we'll come back to it.
all right, sounds good. All right, now it's another JRPG I got to defend. Cool.
So it's not on my list, but I want
But
to.
you bought it.
I bought it and I've played a little bit of it, and I can tell right now it's going to end up. If we had made this list 6 months from now, it would be on my list. I could tell right now.
I'll say this. This is one of my favorite JRPGs of all time. But I think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is better in every single way. And if anybody objects to it, totally understandable.
Yeah, I think if you and me are going to champion a Xenoblade game, I would acquiesce that 3 would probably be the more representative.
Here's the thing: one is it's a fantastic game. I think it's probably both. What would you say, Craig? You're in your top 5 JRPGs of all time, right?
Yeah, it's number 3 on my list, and yeah, I think number 1 is Final Fantasy VII, and number 2 is Persona 5. So yeah.
So yeah, I mean
Literally.
it's an incredible game, but if I were to come up to somebody and they were like, "Listen, I haven't played any of these games at all. If I can only play one of them, I would say, all right, play Xenoblade 3. Watch a fucking couple videos of the the summaries of the stories and play 3."
So that's where I would disagree, only because I don't think you should have to watch a summary in order to want to play a game.
So you
I
don't
shouldn't
have
to
to
watch a catch-up
Nope.
video in order for me to want.
No.
be
So
involved.
here's the beauty of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is that its story completely on its own is very powerful. It's about there's a lot of like very
Do you need to have played the first
Nope.
game?
No.
Do you need to have known anything about the first game?
nope.
No.
So here's the thing. What I was going to say is that the story itself completely stands on its own. But if you played both 1 and 2, there's just absurd amounts of little Easter eggs and little things that you'll notice, references, all those kinds of things. But as a game, the story, the gameplay, everything else completely stands on its own. Like I could tell somebody, go ahead and play 3.
If all of those things that you mentioned, Easter eggs, etc., were not in a game, would the game be considered less?
I would only say slightly because the actual story that 3 tells, the themes, it's almost like a kind of Brave New World. A lot of kind of eugenics and questioning what reality is, people finding that their reality is not what it seemed. These are all universal themes that, you don't have to play the first 2 games. It's kind of like if, I'm trying to think of a good analogy in terms of movies. I can't think of one offhand, but 3, I would say, like, if you never played 1 or 2, 3 is like a 9 out of 10. If you played 1 and 2, then 3 is like a 9.5 because of the little Easter eggs and the little nods and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, honestly, man, like I'm thinking about it more.
We're talking about the first one, right?
Yeah, I would say basically the point that I'm making is that if I'm going to make a point to have any of these games on the list, it's number 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to having more of a neutral stance. The thing that I'm really remembering now is that so Xenoblade 3 is a game that has a fuck ton of systems, and you said that as much yourself. But it's a lot. And I think people like me and you, we latched onto it pretty quick because we've played Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2. We've seen what the topple system is and stuff like that. So when they just say, here's the topple system, we go, oh, okay, we know. We hit the ground running. Whereas this game, it's the first in the series. Nobody knows anything. So things start off and there's a lot less systems in the game. It's just easier to digest, I think.
Hold on. Can we talk about the name of this enemy, Little Skeeter?
Skeet.
Yeah.
Skeet.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
and we got to talk about the crazy story behind this game, not in the game, but the whole thing about how this game in particular was the one where it didn't even come out to America because Nintendo was like, no one cares about it or whatever. And then
people had to advocate for it.
Yeah, it's called Project Rainfall.
Yeah.
And they advocated for it so much that we got we got those 3 RPGs for the Wii out of it. And and then look, because of that, we have a fucking franchise. But this game in particular for me, the story just did everything I wanted it to. It came to a nice it was easy to understand. Wasn't super confusing as a lot of JRPGs like to do and get really fucking meta. I don't know. I really fell in love with the characters and just how they talk to each other and go back and forth. And I don't know. It was the perfect marriage of a game for me, where it was like someone who loves JRPGs and someone who played WoW a lot, because it has a lot of those aspects of both, right? You get the big open worlds of an MMO. You've got like this kind of like auto attacking battle system, where I'm thinking about, okay, how do I chain my cooldowns into like a good rotation? And then how do I, like, oh, I want to switch to the tank, and now it's a completely different play experience with different objectives. Um, with that said, like, we will end up talking about Xenoblade 3 because it's literally on this. Me and Chris are going to do this again on the list, but like, I would say, like, if this goes on the list, it's just, again, like, I don't. It's a phenomenal, fucking crazy good game.
I mean, I haven't played the third one. I've only played a little bit of this one. Um, the the mentioning of all the different systems, in my opinion, I want some of those, but I feel like if you have too many, it detracts from the game. So talking about how many systems the third game has, for me, feels almost like a detraction from
Yeah, I
like
would
why it
say
would be on the
that.
list.
Uh, uh, oh,
Especially for, I mean, we're talking about top 50, and so like you want a game that is playable by a lot of people that almost anybody could pick up, and like having some systems in the game,
I,
yeah, you want and you need for
I
a
don't think
genre
that's
like
what we're
this,
doing
but
here.
yeah, I think we're just doing.
We're doing
We'll get
our
to.
personals.
Yeah, I'd say when we get to 3, we'll get to 3. But I would say that my piece about 3 and its systems is that it's like an 120-hour game, and the game perfectly paces out the new abilities that you get. So it's like you're constantly layering systems upon systems. It's not like everything at once.
It feels natural.
It's expertly done in the way that I can't really compare it to any other game that I've ever played in my entire life. Because by the end of the game, there is a crazy amount of shit that you're doing and managing, and it all feels natural.
Yeah. So when we were playing this game, me and Chris were playing it at the same time, and Chris got ahead of me. When I was texting him about it, I'd be like, "Oh my god, this thing in the story! Oh my god, this thing! I really hope this happens!" And oh my god, it happened! And like, it was just kind of like hitting all those notes for me. When we're doing number 3, and he got ahead of me, and I was catching up. I was just like, I was just constantly texting him, how the fuck are they still giving me more? Like, this game does not stop, and it's not like, oh, it's another system I have to think about and manage. It's like, just no, there's just more game. It's still evolving. It's still doing amazing things. So yeah, like, the difference between this 1 and 3 for me is just comes down to like the specific story, the specific settings, and then like what like how this game came out of nowhere and built one of Nintendo's biggest franchises now. Crazy.
So what's the best way to play this game right now? Is it on the
Switch.
Does it have a Switch version?
Yep.
yeah, there's
So
a
you're
definitive
watching it.
edition.
This
I'm
is
kind
the
of
definitive
interested in
edition.
trying it.
There's
It's
also
just
graphical changes to, like, I watched a whole thing about it today. There's like
Okay.
graphical changes on there. They made some improvements to
Yeah.
the like they kind of streamlined some of the systemy stuff. Not like got rid of it, but just like made it less clunky. Um
And
and
they'll
so
have
like
systems like, oh hey, like, they have a topple system, right? So it's like, okay, this guy with his pink moves, all the pink moves like break them, and it kind of like lowers their defense, but it gets them into the spot where then the tank can use the topple move, and now they can't attack you. They're on their back, and you can deal some bonus damage. Then if you have another character, they can daze them and just knock them out longer, and there's all these bonuses, and so there's different things you're keeping track of all the doing that.
see,
You see a guy move around the enemies, it's because he
there's
gets
this like
positional
social map
bonuses.
system that, like, also where you can socialize with people in the towns and trade stuff with them and like build relationships with people. And then it's like this big, you have like a sub menu, it's like a big map, and as you talk to people in town, it sort of expands the number of people that are on the map. And the closer they are to you, the closer they are to you, sort of, you know,
Yeah, and then
interpersonally. And you can build that and then connect one character to another, and then like that opens up other options that lets you further relationships. But the cool thing is you don't need to do any of that shit if you don't want to. If you just want to like play through the combat, not talk to anybody, you can do that, and it's not going to punish you for it.
It's really low
exactly.
maintenance too.
I mean, this looks a little more attractive than like Persona, because honestly, it doesn't play like a graphic novel.
It does. It has. It's pretty story heavy. But yeah, no, you're right. It's not like this. It's not like Persona.
Yeah,
where,
it's incredibly well paced. Like within, you have like a 10-minute maybe opening kind of cinematic intro, and then you're thrown into this big world. That is one of the great things about really all the Xenoblade games, even the lesser ones, is how quickly they throw you into the game world, and they're like, yeah, go do shit.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as I'm concerned, wanting to put this on my list myself, it's like I'm at the point now where like we've got a lot of JRPGs on the list already, and it's like if I'm gonna add one more, I'm either gonna advocate for this, or Xenoblade 3, which I think is down here or something like that. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
So I mean, like for me, I'm fine just putting maybe for right now.
I mean, I would put a yes, but that's just, again, I haven't touched the third one, but I would say yes.
I would vote yes.
So like knowing that we're gonna have a conversation between 1 and
We can always have that
3
conversation later.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have both. I mean, as long as it's not two, I think I think we're good.
Yeah, so
I was talking about how stupid 2 was today.
Oh man, it's so bad.
Hey, so
But yeah.
we're coming at up close to 3 hours. Do we?
This is right where we should probably stop.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, should this be the last game? Yeah.
I'm gonna put this as a maybe.
Well, and we can edit some of this and make it a little more streamlined now that we know how we want to do this.
Yeah, because we'll be able to cut out like a solid half hour, 45 minutes probably.
Well, I think it just means for this session, dudes in Texas, it's like fucking 1 a.m. over there.
That's true.
It's like 1, and I'm not asleep yet, but I kind of just want to like.
Get there.
We've been talking about video games for 3 hours, and honestly, the only thing I want to do right now is play some video games before I go to bed for maybe like an hour.
All right. Well, let's stop.
Wait, you mean you're not doing that while we're talking?
I'm actually not. I've been very good, and I've actually just been doing this.
Oh
well,
yeah.
So
no, I've been playing, but
recording wise, this is where we're gonna stop the second episode. Thank you, future us, for watching. We will continue down this list and see what the hell happens. Hopefully, I don't have to talk about every fucking game about the list again. But anyways, signing off. Until next time.